Indianapolis winner Bobby Rahal. Brazil's Raul Bozel. America's Eddie Cheever. All come to Miami to play in the sun, knowing that at any moment it can be eclipsed on this most difficult track. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speedway. BF Goodrich TAs. We make your car perform. By Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. Miami, it has the elegance, the glamour, the magnificence of Monte Carlo, and its racetrack has the action of Saturday night in Ascot, California. Hello, I'm Ken Squire, and welcome to the Miami Grand Prix, a celebrated international field, 12 countries represented among the 40 cars down here on pit road, 11 different manufacturers. Not many other sanctioning bodies can make that claim as the International Motorsports Association shows off its very best. The depth of the field is incredible, and a man who's driven here, who knows this track and knows this competition, Bill Adam, is with me. What do you think about it?
Well, I really have never seen a field like this before at any track. Miami has historically always been the most glamorous on the circuit, but to get a field like this with the depth of quality competition, really is. It's been unseen. It's just tremendous field today.
The major story after the 24 hours of Daytona was the encounter between two of the world's great manufacturers, and my colleague Dave Despain is with part of that story right now.
Behold the most feared car in Camel GT Racing 1988, the Jaguar. And not the semi-supported American-based Jaguars of the past, but a full-blown factory racing team imported from Britain with an army of technicians, state-of-the-art cars, and an unequivocal goal to win this series championship. Last year, the team debuted in Europe and won the World Endurance Crown. A month ago, it debuted in America at the 24 Hours of Daytona. Jaguar had not won a 24-hour race in 3 decades. And they didn't win Daytona, they blitzed it with first and third place finishes that confirmed the worst fears of the other Camel GT competitors, that these Jaguars may be just as good as their reputations. Here today, they have not cracked the front row. They will indeed start 3rd, 6th, and 13th. In American racing, the Jaguar is the challenger. The champion, well, for that story, let's go to my pit road colleague, Bob Varsha.
Well, with all due respect to Jaguar, Dave, I'm standing next to the car that has done everything Jaguar aspires to do. Since its debut in 1984, the Porsche 962 has won virtually 3 out of 4 Camel GT races it has entered. It has won 11 Daytona 24 hours. Its European cousins have won more than a half dozen 24 hours of Le Mans. But there is no question that the Jaguars are a source of concern. Here on the front row, Klaus Ludwig will share his car with Hans Stuck. Hans, your European compatriot Bob Wallach says the Jaguars may be strong enough to win all the Camel GT races this year. Do you buy that?
Maybe, that's correct, but only maybe. I think we are a hotshot here to win this race, and I think the Jaguar preparation is very good, and Walkinshaw has proven he is one of the best teams, but you be sure we give him a hard time not to win as many races as he thinks to win.
And they'll be starting out front in their effort to prove that.
Gentlemen, that's all well and good, but aren't we leaving out a small factor in this race?
Well, Ken, I don't think we're actually leaving them out. The Nissan start from the pole here today. Unfortunately, there is no Nissan car on the pole. Last year, Jeff Brabham started this race right up front, went on and won it. Jeff Brabham, your car's not here yet, but I assume your strategy is the same as last year.
Well, we're going to try. You know, the Nissan's running very well, and we've got a brand new car this year, and it seems to have kept all the good qualities that the last year's car had, and hopefully be more reliable, and we can go out and win the race.
The one quality you lacked last year was reliability. Will that affect your strategy today, or will you try to go from the green?
Well, we just got to go out and try and win the race. That's all I can do. I mean, obviously my competition isn't going to let me take it easy, so we're here to win, and we're just going to have to go out and go as hard as we can to try and do that.
We'll be back to turn them loose in just a moment as we await the start of the Camel Grand Prix through the streets of Miami. We'll be right back. arrive right on the starting grid, awaiting the engine fire up here for the Miami Grand Prix. And who's here but old Super Tex himself, the famous oval racer, A.J. Foyt. You going to get out there and push and shove a little on the streets today, A.J.?
Oh, we're going to try real hard. The car's working good. We're going to do the best we can. And we got Rob Dyson driving for me. I told him he couldn't let his car go by him, so he agreed not to.
He's a car owner with another machine in the race. Strategy on a track like this. Do you have to bowl your way through a little, or do you have to be careful?
I think the biggest thing, you got to be careful and stay out of trouble. And it's a 3-hour race. It's not going to be won the first 2 laps.
Just across the way, one of A.J.'s old teammates, Bob Wallach, is with Bob Barsha.
Bob Wallach will start the BF Goodrich Porsche from 11th position. Remember, they finished second of the 24 hours, so they've got plenty of firepower. But Bob, you were quoted as saying that you thought maybe the Jaguars were close enough to win all of the Camel GT races this year. Do you still feel that way?
Well, I still feel that way because they are strong. They have been strong in Europe, and it's a new country and new kind of racing. But they already won the first one.
And that may be the start of something big, says Bob Wallach.
The great names are indeed all here. Some of them still wending their way out here on the track, like Bobby Rahal, with whom we expected to talk. Others with whom we thought we would have a confrontation for first place are not here. The Andrettis were here, and take a look at what happened to them yesterday at some 140 miles per hour.
Well, as they're coming down the start-finish straight here, Michael Andretti gets hit by Pete Halsmer in the Ford, and you can see that the car is getting very loose. He's getting wider, and he's actually backwards as he's entering the corner with no place to go except that tire barrier and the concrete wall.
Pete Halsmer's car spinning. They were first in contact coming into that corner. That is turn number 1. Michael, I talked to him this morning. He's very stiff, has a sore neck, sore back, but no broken bones after that terrible crash. Had they not had those tires there, it could have been something else.
A real safety feature, just invaluable right there.
It is one of the most difficult courses upon which the International Motorsports Association runs races anywhere. And let's take a look at the course right now.
The beautiful Miami Grand Prix circuit, a 12-turn, 1.8-mile track, and here we go around it for our lap. We cross the start-finish line coming down into a decreasing radius turn 1. Very gentle on braking here because look how that turn tightens up, and an even tighter corner too. Hard on the gas, little twitch under acceleration there. You're putting down 700 horsepower going up the straight, trying to set up for a pass here. Slide over the inside, get underneath that car, and we've got a tight left-hander. Back down in second gear and let the car use its power, get right over to the outside of it. Be careful, we have to pull it back over to the left and get set for a right. Gentle through here, just check those curves. Look at what we're looking at. We've got it set up for a very fast section of track that'll lead us onto the straight. And here we go, one of the quickest points of the track through corners themselves. Tight on the inside is ducking underneath one of the Jaguars as we're entering an extremely hard left-hander right here. Gentle braking and easy on the power. Little bumps that want to throw the car out, close to the wall. Look at that. Second gear, third gear, fourth, fifth, and this is where you screw up your courage. Flat out, all 700 horsepower right to the floor. You're getting closer to the wall, and here, 160 miles an hour on Biscayne Boulevard. Hard on the brakes, drop to fourth to third, a little switch up through a left-hander. We're approaching this long 180-degree corner. Here you get a perfect driver's view. Nothing to see as far as an exit, and you do it from those practice laps. This tells you when to feed on the power when the car gets wider across the checkered flag, and there you've got your lap at the Miami Grand Prix.
Two-time National IndyCar champion Bobby Rahal ran about 6 Camel GT races last year for Porsche, won 3 of them, and a lot of people think if he'd stayed in the series, he might have won it. Bobby has switched over to Corvette this year. Bobby, why the change?
Well, I think I noticed, watched the Hendricks team from afar, and I thought they were a pretty professional group, and obviously only being able to do 5 or 6 races makes it difficult as far as employment in this series, but they were interested in having me do that, and I was interested in being with this team, and here we are.
Here he is in 12th position, a long way to haul for Bobby Rahal. We'll be back to set the grid, start engines, and fire up for the Camel GT race on the streets of Miami right after this.
In readiness as we're about to bring you live the Miami Grand Prix. Here in Bicentennial Park, tremendous crowd filling in. They filled in the bleachers here. And right now, let's take a look at the 1988 starting grid at Miami. On the pole, last year's winning team, the Nissan, with Australian-born Jeff Brabham at the controls and 25-year veteran John Morton. Outside of row 1, it's Klaus Ludwig on Hans Stuck, the West Germans, in a Porsche 962. Going to row number 2. Inside is the first of the Jaguar team, with Martin Brundle there from Great Britain, and with him comes Denmark's John Nielsen. Outside of row 2, it's Chip Robinson, the Al Holbert team car that's won here twice. With him is the great Derek Bell. For row 3, there you find A.J. Foyt, Super Tex, and his Porsche 962, and one of his greatest admirers, Rob Dyson, is the co-driver from Poughkeepsie, New York. Outside is Holland's Jan Lammers in another Jaguar for row 3, and Davy Jones of Portland, New York. In row 4 today, it's Price Cobb in the Dyson Porsche 962, and his co-driver from England, James Weaver. Outside of row 4, from Milan, Italy, Massimo Segala, and from Argentina, Oscar Larare. In row 5 today, it's Elliott Forbes Robinson and David Hobbs in the Hendrick Corvette, normally aspirated car. Big surprise here. And outside of the row, it's the Busby 962 with Bob Wallach of France and Mauro Baldi, the team that finished second at Daytona. Row 6 is the Hendrick Corvette, turbo-powered. Van der Merwe and Bobby Rahal there. And Bob Earl and Jeff Klein in the Pontiac are in that row as well. Looking further back to row 7, you find Eddie Cheever and Raoul Bozel's Jaguar, Tom Gloy and Pete Halsmer in their Ford GTP. Row 8 today, Pompelli and Bruce Jenner are there, along with Tim McAdam and Chip Meade in the Chevy Fab car. Row 9 is Jim Rothbart, and then alongside is Michael Rowe and Moretti in the Buick March. Going to row 10, Whitney Gantz is back with Bill Cooper in a Buick March, and then the first of the Camel Light cars, Finetto and Malgretti in the Gaston Andre Ferrari. Row 11 is Steve Phillips of Vermont and Jeff Andretti from Pennsylvania, and also Albert Naon and Chris Ashmore share that row. For row 12, it's Brent O'Neill and Dave Roach, and on the outside of row 12, another light car, Charles Morgan is there. Row 13, the car that won in Camel Light in the 24 Hours of Daytona, Dave Loring and Tom Hessert. Also in that row, Bill Cole and Skeeter McKittrick. Row 14 today is John Gunn in an open cockpit car. We'll tell you more about it later. And Bruce McInnes. And also in that row is Billy Andecco in another Ferrari. For row 15, Jean-Louis Ricci and Claude Bellolino are there in row 15 on the inside. And then Howard Cherry and Charles Monk complete row 15. Row 16, Lorenzo Lamas is there, and John Higgins is his co-driver. Bill Jacobson and Ron McKay fill out the row. Going to row 17 this afternoon, Gary Robinson will have his car working, and with him is John Thola, and then Scott Schubat's car is also in that row, in row 17. Going to row 18 for today. There you find the Schubat Lindemann car on the inside, and on the outside will be Tommy Miller and Dick Rhodes. For row 19, Terry Visker with the Pontiac and Paul Lewis, Camel Light car, and Jim Downing, who came in very late, provisional starter. Howard Katz of New York is with him in row 19. Going to row 20, car number 84, Brabham car, inside on the very final row, and that would be John Morton as a backup just for the start. I'm sure they're going to pull that in.
Precisely what they'll do. The worst possible thing that can happen. There's a great in-car shot just showing you the cars. This is our second pace lap, which is something of an advantage, both to the drivers and the crew alike, because you're going to try and avoid a problem. You're getting your tires that much hotter than you normally could.
That's from the 10th place car. Here's Bob Barsham.
Two-time World Sports Car Champion Derek Bell won the Miami Grand Prix back in 1985 when it was a very different race course than what it is now. Series champion Chip Robinson is in the car starting fourth. Derek, how has this course changed?
It's changed a lot. It's a much easier course to drive on. Before, we had to run over railway lines and tight corners through brick walls, and it was a very demanding course. This one, nobody complains about. That means it must be all right.
All right, indeed, and a great show for the fans. Let's go now down to my colleague, Dave Despain.
35 drivers are in their race cars, perhaps 100 times that many deployed along pit road. The support teams who anticipate a one pit stop race for the most fuel efficient cars in the field. They think there will be one big long yellow at least in this race. That's the Miami tradition. Michael Andretti is probably not the only man to write off a $400,000 car this weekend. The teams hope that that long yellow, if it comes, will come deep enough into the race to enable them to refuel and then run all the way to the finish. When is the window of opportunity? Sometime in the second half hour of the race. For the cars that have long legs, they think they can run a couple of hours without a fuel stop.
18 prototypes getting ready, and the field fill out with those Camel Light cars. It ought to be a dramatic race as you take a look here. Here they are down the Biscayne Boulevard area of the course, right by the Freedom Tower, making that very sharp turn, which has been the end of many an afternoon here in the past 5 years for some top talent.
I'm sure they all want to avoid that problem today, but right now they've got less than half a mile before a big 180 corner. There it is right there in the screen, and then the start-finish line. You can see the pace cars pulling off right now, Ken.
So, on the outside, that Nissan car that sits on the pole for the second straight year is ready to bring the field down for a 3-hour race live on ESPN. There's the break. And as they thunder into turn number 1 on a clear start, Nissan jumping out in front, and it is Klaus Ludwig driving the 962 that takes over in second. Martin Brundle is in the Jaguar number 60 that sustains third. And from the in-car camera, here's what it looks like. Bob Wollek driving car number 67, the BF Goodrich car, on the break.
Now look at that on his windshield already. This is just residue out of the exhaust of the cars immediately ahead. And as the afternoon wears on, that's going to get worse and worse, really hurting visibility.
Back with the leaders, and pulling away is Brabham in the number 83. John Morton starting the 84 car in the back of the field as a bit of a security blanket for Nissan. Away and running. That asphalt that you see mixed with the tarbia makes for a dangerous situation. It's like an ice rink when you hit those asphalt patches on this track. A.J. Foyt's number 1 right up in here. Big story on Foyt today. Rob Dyson, who was his co-driver, saw his first race in Indianapolis when A.J. won for the first time back in the days of Sheridan Thompson. And he is ecstatic to be part of A.J.'s congregation this afternoon. Here we are, rounding the first lap out with Nissan out in front. Australian-born, now out of Indiana, Jeff Brabham in command. Here live on ESPN. That second position, Klaus Ludwig, the great West German endurance champion, staying right there in second. Any surprises thus far?
Well, this Nissan is really, really impressive. As we're watching it here, there's just no motion in that car at all. It looks glued to the track in every respect. Ludwig is brilliant. He's following and trying to do as neat as he can.
First to second interval already is a 1 8/10 of a second development here for the Nissan. Wouldn't it be something if it came back and won? It won here last year, then had a mediocre season with 3 crashes. But Brabham looks like he's hitched up in the early going this afternoon. That 962 roars along after him here. Now you see that the Al Holbert car has moved up into third. The driver in the car number 14 is the IMSA defending champion, Chip Robinson. Correction, there's the Jag into third. For a moment, 14 was there. Now we have Martin Brundle in the Jag, the XJR9, going back to third spot. Martin Brundle, that 12-cylinder car.
Well, Brundle, we're watching him. He is, of course, we all know, a Formula One driver. Brilliant young talent, but he looks like he's working very, very hard with this Jag. We'll watch it over the bumpy sections where the Nissan is very smooth. Watch this car. Look at how smooth that 962 is, and compare it as the Jag comes along. It tends to chatter, so Brundle has to work very hard with it.
Chip Robinson maintaining 4th position. Behind him is the Dyson car being driven by Price Cobb, runner-up in the International Motorsports Association last year driver standings. A.J. Foyt, who is at the controls of his own car, the black and red number 1 right there, is in 6th position, and behind him comes Bobby Rahal, the number 22 car, and that would be incorrect. That is Hobbs and Elliott Forbes Robinson to start. The story there is the number 1 driver on that car is Cyril Vandermerver, and he really gets his choice. That's the deal.
Very, very smart psychology on their part. The 22 cars, a turbocharged V6, the 52 cars, a V8.
Now for the blimp, take a look at this magnificent shot. Metropolitan Light blimp giving us the leader as the Nissan pulls away. Jeff Brabham. We had a great GTU race, and the Chevy Beretta won its first time out. Young Tom Kendall out of California with a tremendous victory earlier. Taking a look now for the Lights leader, and I believe that'll be the Fanato car. Indeed, that is that Ferrari that comes from up in Wellesley Hills, Massachusetts, the Gaston Andre car. Gaston Andre, a great driver back in the 50s in sports car racing in the United States, and it's great to see his cars in competition.
And a
Camel
great
Light
battle.
Series leader.
Look at the battle he's having right there with the Pontiac Fiero right on his tail.
That should go on all day. We'll be back with that Camel Light story throughout the day. So follow for just a moment. Now with the in-car camera, Pontiac really wants to move through and take the lead in Camel Light. Here you are once again in car number 67, Bob Woolek, car in 10th position at this moment.
You can see Woolek there. See his hands start to cross over as he's exiting a slow corner, trying to put down a lot of horsepower. There he is. He's sitting there having a nice drive, trying to use as little effort as possible. But when you get your foot down on 700 horses, the back end wants to come out on you.
Live on ESPN, it's the Miami Grand Prix, a 1.8-mile course, 12 turns. Very difficult, just no margin for error. And look at Bob Woolek, the great Le Mans champion, working that wheel so carefully. He never uses that wheel more than he needs to.
No, and you can watch something that's tremendous difference. He looks like he just spun. He did. He actually went off track at one point. Look at him, he's getting underway now. Hard acceleration, see the back of the car swirling around.
Apparently he needed to use it a little more there.
Gee, he must have been listening to our commentary on it.
The BF Goodrich car, Bob Woolek, back underway. Another time we may see a lot of this throughout the day.
That was an interesting example. We were just talking about tremendous concentration. Obviously, he did miss a corner, and you saw no change in him whatsoever. He's
Composure stayed the same.
Oh, amazing.
Bob Woolek slipping back. Again with the leader, Jeff Brabham, defending champion of the Miami Grand Prix. At Powerhouse, V6 Nissan continues to break away and now begins to gather up some of the Camel Light cars in the early going of our live coverage here at Miami.
From high above the streets of Miami, where 3 different types of exotic sports cars are out front in the running of the Camel Grand Prix here in Miami. You have a Nissan with Jeff Brabham out front. In second place, Klaus Ludwig in a Porsche. Third place, Martin Brundle in a Jaguar. It was set up to be a Jaguar-Porsche battle, but Nissan right now way out front. Ken Squire, my question for you. We've seen a couple of the cars get a little bit loose out there. Where is the tough part of the racetrack?
Name any corner you want as far as most of them are concerned. It's very difficult to set up for any of this track to try to gain time on. The corner that you want the most is that last corner. If you can get through there smoothly and into the main straightaway, that will work to your advantage. The infield course is so tight, the streets are a little bumpy, so there's not much to do but hang on and just try to stay between those barriers.
Really the truth. Turn 1, a decreasing radius corner, is extremely tricky, but we've also got a very high-speed bend on the back straight coming onto Biscayne Boulevard. You have to try and run it flat for a good time as Brabham goes through right there, running 160 miles an hour through that corner, and it's very delicate. You're right on tiptoes.
Again, you're on Biscayne Boulevard in Miami, live here on ESPN. You're with the Australian-born Jeff Brabham, who is currently leading for Team Nissan. The second place car is a Porsche 962. The great West German champion Klaus Ludwig is there. And then Martin Brundle of Great Britain is maintaining third at this time for Team Jaguar. How about it, Dave Despain?
Well, further to that question of how you set the car up for the racetrack, as we watch that Nissan of Jeff Brabham threading its way now through the lap traffic, which is obviously the biggest obstacle on this track. When that car went out to qualify yesterday, Don Devendorf was quoted as saying that the reason they went so fast was that they made a major chassis adjustment that got the car right for the racetrack. We're down in the Jaguar pits where one of the observers commented that they thought that indicated that the turbo boost control had somehow been attached to the chassis, because they're confident that it was indeed more horsepower that got them the pole.
Averaging some 89 miles per hour, the Nissan continues to stay in front on this beautiful day in Miami, Florida, on this beautiful course. There you see the 67 car. It's carrying our onboard camera and has fallen out of the top 10 for the moment after it looped out here.
We're going to see Bob just work his way back to the field here. You see the problems with traffic. That's the Jaguar immediately ahead of him. Watch the difference as the cars accelerate off the corner. The Jaguar has a normally aspirated, that's a fuel-injected V12 motor, and he doesn't have to wait for that turbocharger to build up power. Now here he goes, watch. Squirt, and he immediately pulls out some time on the Porsche.
And on those turbos, you want to hit that accelerator a little early before you get to the apex, or you're going to be in serious trouble.
Right, you actually anticipate where you want full power. You put your foot to the floor before you really want it there.
Got to be a strange feeling. Let's follow the battle right now a little further back in the field. You see the 16 and 14, and this is a good scrap. There's the Dyson car with Price Cobb. What an outstanding talent Price Cobb is. And right with him comes Chip Robinson in the Al Holbert car that has won here on 2 occasions.
Chip Robinson has always been a brilliant driver on street courses. He has shown this time and time again, and he's getting the bit back in his teeth today to get up there and challenge. Few cars between them right now here, but they shouldn't create too much of a problem.
And they're going right through the lights battle. That aqua-colored car is the Hessert-Loring. That's that number 9 right there on the outside that won the 24 Hours of Daytona. And everyone says that that Loring is one of the talents that should move up into the prototype. Really 2 classes running here, and we should explain that.
That's right. There he's just passing that number 80. That is a Ferrari-powered, a 3-liter Ferrari-powered car. Much smaller and much less horsepower than the cars running the flat-out GTP lights like the Dyson car, the number 16 right there.
Boy, it is tough to get by those cars, those Camel Light cars, several seconds slower. And when you get caught up with them in those tight corners, you just have to be patient.
Well, we just saw an indication of tremendous frustration for Chip Robinson. Where Price Cobb was able to get by the 2 GTP lights, Chip didn't. He played more of a waiting game, being very cautious. And look at this. Again, here's caution. You've got to be very careful because the slightest little impact puts you into the concrete wall.
Notice that convertible, that's the first one under the new IMSA rules. That is John Gunn, and that little Chevy is one to watch, and I think there'll be more. I like to see the convertibles come back into this. Looks more like the old days.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of drivers here, particularly today with this heat, that wish they had convertibles. It must be a comfortable car to drive by comparison. That could have a good effect on a long-distance race.
Here's Bob Varsha.
Don Devendorf designed and built the Nissan that is now leading this race. I know he wants to get a time on it when it makes its way down now through turn 11. Don, you go ahead, get your time. The car won this race last year, as Ken pointed out. Came into the race here in Miami with about a 2 horsepower, that is a 2-mile-an-hour advantage over the rest of the field. You see Devendorf looking upstream now as the car makes its way through turn 11, on its way down the pit lane, and as it does, he'll click the stopwatch and go right to pencil and paper to let his man, Jeff Brabham, know exactly how he's making out. Not only how fast he is going, but how far behind second and third place are. The numbers go into the book to report of the driver. Don, you've got an advantage in speed over the field. What kind of pace are you asking Jeff to run?
Well, we're just asking him to run a comfortable pace, and he has a good judgment about how hard he can push the car. The car has enough speed. With the restrictor, the power is down, and so we're just hoping to run a good steady race and try and stay out of trouble, take our time in traffic.
What is it about this car that is so well suited to Miami?
Well, what can I say? Jeff really likes the track. It seems to really agree with it. You know, some of the things we did with the new chassis, the switch to the Goodyear tires, I don't know. It's a whole combination. The package is working beautifully.
It's a package for Nissan. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
The team manager is Kaz Kastner, who retired and came out of retirement so excited about this car and its potential in prototype racing. And he must be in 7th heaven right now. And they say that is an entirely different car. The front end, beneath the skin, it's an all-new suspension in the front, not in the back, but in the front of this car, number 83, that continues to dominate the Miami Grand Prix.
This car has got to be making everybody happy right now, because I don't agree with the Jaguar people. If they're saying it's all a motor, it is not. Devendorf is brilliant as far as an electronic specialist in engine management with the turbo tricks, but the chassis works.
From the good airship Metropolitan Life, this magnificent picture of the Miami Grand Prix. And we'll be back with more of the action of this great racing classic in a moment.
Live, Miami Beach, Florida, the Miami Grand Prix, and it's a computer age in Camel GT racing. We're at the back of the Jaguar pit area, where a complete computerized scoring system is in place, clocking every car, every lap of the race. Not just the Jags, but also the Jags competition. All the cars are clocked in here, each computer scored. The Jaguars appear in boldface to make them easier for the team members to pick out. The best of the Jags right now, the number 60 entry running in 3rd spot. The point is the Jaguar, well aware, as we watch that 3rd place car in action, Jaguar well aware that in endurance racing, scoring is often a major issue. They choose not to totally trust the officials. They maintain their own independent system here, all computerized, in order to keep their own track of who's doing what in the Miami Grand Prix. To see who's doing what upstairs, let's go to Ken Squire.
David, what would you expect of the man they call the Roger Penske of Great Britain, Tom Walkinshaw, a man who runs 17 companies after just 1 year in college and a former racing champion himself, and has created this team that already has won the longest race, the 24 Hours at Daytona, and many people said that they would probably dominate in every race. That's not the case here today, Bill Adam.
No, as a matter of fact, I was one of those people that did predict just that thing, and I'm very, very impressed with what this Nissan is doing. And in second place also, the Klaus Ludwig car. We can watch the Jag. Look at the distance here. He is away from curbs. He's right over to the edge on the exits, but watch as he's turning in. I don't find them setting up their cars nearly as neatly as other people. And perhaps this is holding them back.
Sixth place battle continues. There's A.J. Foyt's car, number 1, continuing to work his way. I believe that's Rob. And there's the 22 car right behind him. Elliott, Forbes, Robinson, and David Hobbs in the normally aspirated Corvette. That is the battle for the 6th position. A.J. in 6th, and the number 22 back there in the 7th spot, and a Jag trying to eat him up, clawing away at the old tail feathers. Number 61 is Jan Lammers in that Jag right there, and this is really going to be a hot battle. Now, the silver and black, that gunmetal gray car, that Corvette from Rick Hendrick, they came here with a turbo car and they came here with a normally aspirated car, and the normally aspirated car qualified far better than the turbo car. Surprise. Well, in a course like this where you do require an immediate acceleration, again, this anticipation can hurt you very badly. As the battle continues now, here they are getting sorted out from some lapped automobiles. There's a little bit of pressure. Let's take a look at the 10th, 11th, and 12th place battle from our VF Goodrich in-car camera. Now that car is in the 12th position after that loop when the car skirted out from beneath Bob Wallach as he tries to overtake here. Now again, see, we're only 20 minutes or so into the race, Ken, and look at already how bad that windshield is. And there again was a perfect example of what's happening with this immediate horsepower the Jaguars have off the slow corner. Eddie Cheever directly in front of him, and then the car of that number 52, of course, is Ray Hall in the second. There's a great battle right there with the number 22 Corvette, the Jan Lammers Jaguar, and now Bob Wallach and the VF Goodrich Porsche. They're all right tight together, and we'll watch as they go through traffic. You'll see how they get separated and can reclose as different ones get advantages. That's 10th, 11th, and the VF Goodrich car in 12th as they go across the start-finish line here. They are in turn 1. That's right where Andretti crashed yesterday. And it smacked in there. Again, we just watched the Jaguar there get very, very wide, not really using up all of the track available, entering that tight second. Oh, and look at this. Sensational pass by Wallach. He went very, very deep in the corner, but watch the Jag. Because Wallach was so deep, he was off the gas, lost the turbo power, and look at that. The Jag makes a repass before the end of the corner. Immediate acceleration from those V12s, and it hurts so badly. And you can't see out of these cars. You really don't see what's around you. You feel what's around you. You have a sense about it, but you can't see out the back. There's nothing but motor and pipes and a plumber's nightmare all over the back of it. Exactly. There is no mirror in the middle of the windshield because all it's going to show is aluminum bulkhead behind you. You just have to work those little tiny door mirrors. You just barely see them on each of the cars there. And you have to pay attention to colors. Here we may have a pass try right now. Ray Hall in 10th. And here's car number 14 slicing its way through the field. And notice he is into some of the Camel Light cars. Number 22 comes to a stop down here. 22 is on pit road. Let's see what the issue is on car 22. That was the car to be driven by David Hobbs and Elliott Forbes Robinson, who have been talking about going to Le Mans together. David would make his 19th try at Le Mans. I consider him one of the most star-crossed drivers I've ever, a lot like Chris Amon in the old days. As good as anyone here, but he always seems to be with a car when it's in a development stage. From the in-car camera, you see Bob Wallach on pit road. No, this can't be a scheduled stop. He is very, very early. Back with the leader. Brabham in the number 83, defending champion. Brabham says it has quite a nice ring to it. Indeed it does. Such a brilliant driver. Here he is. Again, we're live. It's a 1.8-mile course, and here's that tussle that's developing for second place. You see the number 86, Klaus Ludwig, and directly behind is Great Britain's Martin Brundle in the Jaguar. Well, I am a real Klaus Ludwig fan. I enjoy watching this man more than any other driver on the track because of his precision. As he winds around the track, watch how neatly he comes in, never running over curbs and using up all the road on exit. He's just a delight to watch. And for people who are getting interested in racing and trying to find out what they're supposed to do, watch Ludwig. Look at the poke of the Jag. Again, there's that immediate acceleration on the corner. Now Ludwig may get a run here with a turbo. He was able to get back underway quickly enough that he's going to stay close. And let's watch the braking at the end of the straight. The 962 does have more stable braking than the Jaguar. Brundle will have to work much harder. The 09 car, one of the Camelite Pontiac. See that Jaguar hopping? I imagine the vibration in there is considerable. Of course, we saw some of it with Wallach, but He is so cool. The 22 car, incidentally, has come down pit road and I think is being retired.
It is a retirement.
The Corvette is being retired. Number 22 of Elliott Forbes Robinson and David Hobbs, very early in the going, about 20 minutes into this live 3-hour race on ESPN. One of the Corvettes is back toward the garage area and will be a DNF today.
I believe the number 22 car is the turbocharged 6-cylinder, so the V8 is still running.
On. Here's Bob Varsha.
Well, we've already seen how Mario and Michael Andretti were unable to make the start here at Camel with a big crash yesterday in qualifying. Mario first, how is Michael feeling physically and mentally?
Well, physically he's a little stiff. He took a pretty good thump there yesterday, and mentally, obviously, he's disappointed like we all are. We had a good team, and just something unfortunate happened. We're out of it. We don't like to be spectators.
Who do you like in the race based on what you've seen thus far?
Well, I'd love to see Jeff do well, but the team he's with is not really up to snuff at the moment.
Jeff Andretti out there with the Momo Buick team. We'll be back to more live Camel GT racing from the streets of Miami, Florida after these words. You're watching ESPN. Stay with us.
We're live at Miami, and we are watching the number 67 car here, the Porsche, go a lap down to the leader, the Nissan of Jeff Brabham. The problem on that 67 Porsche of Bob Wallach, transmission troubles. Jim Busby says that, well, Jim, you tell me, what was it all about out there? What happened?
Well, when he came in, he said he was having a hard time shifting. It appears that it's stuck in third gear. We were able to get it back into neutral, and now he's gone back out again to see if it'll continue to shift. Although it's put us so far back that it's going to be iffy to make up the time.
How do you work the strategy from here? Do you have to just run wide open now to try to get back into it?
We'll run it as hard as it'll run now. We're going to come off our easy strategy, and we're going to go as hard as we can.
The gearboxes take a tremendous beating here in Miami. A similar problem for the Corvette. David Hobbs' entry that just went behind the wall. They broke the shifter completely off the car. They've taken it back to the garage to fix it. Then they hope to return to the race.
Well, there you are in the BF Goodrich car. Trying to make up a little bit of time here, but having some problems after the brilliant second place finish in the 24 hours of Daytona when it waged, touching the wall there.
That's as close as you want to get. Bob is really throwing this car around right now. You can watch the pounding he takes. When this wheel kicks back and you see his wrists just shaking in the wheel back and forth, a lot of the time he isn't doing that deliberately. That's the reaction of the steering gear to the bumps on the track. It's something that, not like a street car at all, where you get cushioned by your power steering. This transmits everything. It's tremendously tiring on your wrists.
A long, hot, frustrating afternoon for the gentleman in car number 67 as he tries to make up some ground and is having car problems. Bob Wallach, former winner of Le Mans, to keep this BF Goodrich car in the hunt. But as you can see, there are some big problems here. Here's that battle for third place with Klaus Ludwig in the number 86 and number 14 Chip Robinson.
And we just saw Chip Robinson just get tapped there, thankfully, very, very lightly by one of the GTP light cars that he was lapping. Didn't put him too badly out of shape at all, and he was able to continue with no problems at all. But it is a great battle developing here.
I like what Al Holbert says. He says, my strategy is to carefully and specifically define the car's parameters and then run at its limits. And other than that, we just run the wheels off the thing.
They really do. What a record they have.
That is Chip Robinson, currently at the controls of car number 14. Defending IMSA champion, kid who's paid his dues and come up through.
Really has done a most impressive job, and of course he won the IMSA championship last year for Holbert. You just can't ask for better performance.
And what you really have here is a battle for second. 10 cars now on the lead lap. 10 cars on the lead lap.
Well, there's great that Klaus Ludwig has been able to close right back up on the Martin Brundle Jaguar, and now he's dragged Chip along with him. These cars can have a great, good, fun race, and we'll be able to watch exactly where their strengths and weaknesses are, the different accelerations, the different braking. We can watch them all right here.
We're 27 minutes into the 3 hours that make up the Miami Grand Prix on a beautiful day. Temperature into the 80s this afternoon, a light flutter in the flags, and a tremendous flutter in the heart as you watch these great cars pounding their way through the streets of Miami and down Biscayne Boulevard to enter Bicentennial Park, where they continue their battle. We're watching it now in Bicentennial Park, and there you see that asphalt strip, which is an added hazard.
it turns out to be, and they had to put a few of these in this track because the tires, the width of them, the rubber composition, and the great traction that these cars can put down onto the road were actually tearing the roadway up. They had to use a different type of pavement at certain areas, and because of this, they have different coefficient frictions, and that you're going across with the car sliding a little bit, then all of a sudden you hit a different piece of pavement and the car doubles its slide, and it really can get your heart going in a hurry.
An overview of the race now. The 83 car stays in front, and here you see the number 60 car, Martin Brundle, followed by that 86 of Klaus Ludwig in third. Chip Robinson maintaining the fourth position. Then it's the Dyson 962 with Price Cobb in fifth. AJ's hanging on to sixth. Jan Lammer's Jaguars up into seventh, and the Segala Lorari car, Oscar Lorari, is now in eighth position. Eddie Cheevers brought his Jag up to ninth, and Bobby Rahal is in 10th. Let's take a look again at the lead car in the event. As you see this magnificent view, lovely crowd out here today. Weather has hampered this event on previous occasions from gathering a crowd, but not the case today. There's the leader, and he's going under the Corvette. First to second is now 16 seconds as the Nissan continues to say bye-bye in the early going, but it's early.
Really, really an impressive performance so far, and it looks like Jeff is just taking it very easy. You watch the car in all areas of the track, acceleration and braking, and it is doing nothing unusual. It just looks like an effortless performance, but obviously he's going very quickly to be pulling away from the best field in the world.
What a great pair they have for this team this year with Jeff Brabham, who started racing in 1970, really. You think of him as a youngster still, which is not the case. And, of course, one of the great American masters, John Morton, as his co-driver, a quarter of a century, and he never seems to put a wheel out of place. I think they're going to be tough to beat whenever they bring those colors onto the IMSA circuit this year.
No, there are some rumors around that John Morton's been around since dirt was invented, but he is great in any car he gets in. 2 wins with Jaguar last year, and now they're going to try and do one for Nissan today.
I think the key issue here, guys, is the pace that Nissan is setting, because that car has a real history, and it's not a pleasant history. After they won this Miami race last year, they repeatedly took that car out, sprinted into the lead in these endurance races, built up huge leads, and then blew it up, often much to the amazement of other teams along pit road. Portland was the classic example. 2 years running there, they threw away a full lap lead. Once they ran it till the head gasket blew, and the year before that, they ran it out of gas with 2 laps to go. They are setting a hot pace here. The question has to be, will that car live? And we're going to find out the answer to that and a whole lot more questions here as the Miami Grand Prix unfolds live on ESPN. Stay with us.
Camel Light Cars has come to this terrible conclusion right in the area where Andretti crashed yesterday, and I believe it's the second place car in the Camel Light as it was running. That is car 40, which was being driven by Deco, and wasn't that Claude Bellolino was combined with him?
I think 40 was Uli Bieri.
Bieri and Deco, and that is one of the Ferrari cars entered by Gaston Andre. See a wheel torn off. A serious calamity. The driver was able to extricate himself from the car and walk away. It is between turns 1 and 2.
I'm not sure, Ken. It looks similar. It's almost similar to the back straight, but we're going to get a full course caution out here now, so they have to get that away.
Yellow is out around the course. Caution is on the track.
We should be able to get an idea from one of these overhead shots exactly where that took place, but I think that's the kinks just as you enter Biscayne Boulevard, one of the fastest places on the track.
Off MacArthur Causeway?
Yes.
Let's take a look here and see if we can find it. Again, those Camel Light cars a little bit slower than the prototype cars, but on this track, they can really stay in there and stay in the hunt with the big prototype automobiles. Just not that much room for passing unless you get real brave. There is the leader in the lights class, number 97. And that is Claude Bellolina currently driving in that Pontiac.
Well, Bellolina is a very experienced man and a name that we've known from years past at Le Mans. He's run there so many times and has won so many times too. A very successful driver.
Full course caution coming up. Claude Bellolina's car in number 97, leader in Camel Light.
Now, Claude is just coming to the start of the straight that leads down to the Biscayne Boulevard. There's the MacArthur Causeway that runs over to Miami Beach. As he gets down here, there's a very, very slight left-hand bend, extremely fast, 150, 160 miles an hour. That's what it looked like. He should be right down here someplace. Yes, there he is.
Let's take a look at the top 5 in the light class if we can here. Top 5 first in both classes. First of all, here's your overall top 5 with Brabham leading for Nissan. The Jags are currently deployed in 2nd, in 7th, and in 9th. 27 laps complete, about 35 minutes. And here's the Camel Light classification now, with Claude Bellolina in 1st and the David Loring Tom Hessert car in 2nd. Charlie Morgan's car is in 3rd. Fanato's car is 4th.
Well, there was a very interesting development right there as we were looking at this. The number 61 Jaguar, the Jan Lammers car, came into the pits, made a very fast stop, and got back out, losing only 1 position. This may be a brilliant gamble.
Bill, these Camel GT cars fit the classic sports car definition. They're high performance, 2-seaters. Dave Despain checked out the view from that 2nd seat.
This Camel GTP car, Grand Touring prototype, is required by rules to have a 2-person cockpit. That maintains the bloodline between this racetrack thoroughbred and the classic 2-seat sports car. Thus, it's a perfect car for a 5-time Le Mans winner like Derek Bell to take out for a weekend if he wanted to impress someone like me on a ride. Now, Derek, I'm just going to join you here in the cockpit, if I might.
Well, let's try the other end. Let's try the other end.
Try the other end, all right.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm not even fond of that end either. Let's try the feet, shall we?
Feet first. All right, we'll go
That's
feet
much
first.
easier. Yeah.
Sports car enthusiasts like Derek and I know that you have to sacrifice just a little bit of comfort and convenience in order to enjoy the thrill of...
Oh, boy, that's my left foot. That right on the clutch, you got that.
Sorry.
It's all right. Where are you going to put your...
The thrill of high performance is what we're looking for in precision handling. We've almost got it. Hang on. Okay.
And now you've got your trouser leg over the ignition key. This is really friendly. I don't think we want to go far like this, do you?
I'm quite enjoying this, as you might say. Next year, IMSA is considering open cockpit rules, and that sounds like a sports car convertible to me. I have one question before we go, Derek. I have 2 questions. How are you going to steer with my foot there? And where are we going to put the luggage?
Good question.
So much for the homologation of the prototype car. Thank you, David. And there is the car number 14 currently being shown 3rd overall.
You know, the perfect car for somebody that doesn't like driving their mother-in-law around.
I think she'd be good for about a quarter of a mile.
That would do it.
Here's David.
I'm with Davy Jones, one of the Jaguar team drivers. Your car just came and went with Jan Lammers at the wheel, and you didn't get to get in and drive it. Was that according to plan?
Well, it's still a bit early yet in the race. We still have another 2 hours, 15 minutes of race. And so we just came in just to top up a fuel and to go back out and give Yen that little bit longer in the car. So I'll only have an hour and a half or so to keep me just that much fresher to come on stronger late in the race.
The second Jag also came in, the 60 car. Martin Brundle came on pit road. That appeared to be a little more extensive stop. They went for tires.
Yeah, they decided to make a tire change, and I'm not sure just what their plan is, but they're up front, and we're just hoping that we'll be up with them in due course.
Let me ask you about team strategy. You found a winning strategy at Daytona for these cats. Have you worked out a good 3-hour strategy as well?
Well, I think so. We're kind of coming here with a little bit of a disadvantage. All our opposition has been here before, and they knew exactly what their setup was. We were unable to test at a track like this because it's a street course. So with little time that we had to try and get the car set up the best we could, I think we got caught out just a little bit, and we were just that much farther back in qualifying. But hopefully we'll be able to make it up with the next 2.5 hours of racing.
Thank you, Davey. I'm hoping that maybe on the next Jag pit stop, Ken, we can climb in the seat there and compare the comfort factor with the Porsche. Right now, we're going to go down pit road to Bob Barsha.
Well, behind us, Hans Stuck ready to get in for Klaus Ludwig and Bruce Levin's Texaco Porsche. Bruce is standing by with a long caution like this. Bruce, how do you decide when to bring the car in or whether to?
Oh, my guess or my God. Strictly whatever the driver feels. He saw the incident, so he's going to have a feel as to whether it's going to be a long or short caution. So we kind of leave it up to him to make the decision while he's out there.
You've got 2 German Porsche aces. What's it like around the garage with 2 guys who speak German all the time as well as Porsche?
Well, my crew chief speaks German, but I make him speak English so I can understand.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. Hans Stuck waits for his turn to get into the car. We'll be back for more live Camel GT racing from Miami here on ESPN. We're waiting for some very important pit stops yet to come.
ESPN is pleased to bring you live the Miami Grand Prix on this beautiful 1.87-mile course. We have some 40 cars contending this afternoon, largest field ever for this event, and there you see how the standings go. The Nissan is currently leading. Have a 962 running now, second, third, fourth, and fifth, as the Jaguars are back just a little. And from the airship Metropolitan Life, we get these magnificent pictures. The old MetLife blimp will depart its winter home in Florida next month to embark on a full cross-country tour, some 30 states and 8,000 miles, they tell us. Well, Bill Adam, a little earlier this year, Bill Lovell wrote in Auto Week that Jaguar is pouncing into IMSA like a kitten takes to catnip. Has that catnip gone sour here today?
No, I don't think so. I think this could help Jaguar more than anybody even realizes. Something that they're going to have a very decided advantage on that showed up at Daytona is on fuel mileage. Because they have this fuel-injected V12, they're able to go further and, of course, make a faster and a shorter pit stop. The rest of the cars, all the turbo Porsches and the Nissan, were planning on at least 2 full stops today.
So that's 1 hour.
The Jag is going to do 1 and a splash for gas. Now, they have all been in, they've all splashed. They may only have 1 stop left.
David?
That is precisely the story down here. A splash and go pit stop was the plan, along with a scheduled mid-race pit stop. Now what they've done is simply taken their splash and dash stop earlier. They will move their scheduled pit stop a little later into the race if we stay green all the way. The Jaguar fraternity are very, very confident right now that this race is unfolding exactly the way they hoped that it would.
So that business
Let's
about...
go back to you, Ken.
So, Dave, that business about the Jag handling and braking and accelerating better, it really is going to get down again to who has the longest range.
Well, it's very important in this kind of a race, Ken, to have good fuel mileage, because you don't get the opportunity to pit as much at your leisure in this form of racing. You really have to use that full course yellow to make your pit stop. So the racetrack dictates your pit schedule. You can't run it on 1 tank of fuel. So you really, fuel economy is critically important. If that yellow falls in the wrong place, you can run yourself right out of gas here. The lights are out on the pace car. They're going to be running under green here very shortly. One other point, and that is that the cars that did not pit are getting an opportunity to save some fuel under the caution running.
Again, on that report that you're seeing, that's 45 minutes, not 1 hour. We are just at the 44-minute mark into the competition, this 3-hour endurance contest that's taking place in Miami. It's live today on ESPN, and of course, next week, the Winston Cup Series starts on ESPN from the Rock, the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. We hope you'll be joining Bob Jenkins and company next week live here on ESPN for that. Looking back through the field here at some of the cars that are further back. Green next time by, and we'll be back underway as the Nissan continues out in front. What's the range on a Nissan?
It should be about an hour on the tank of gas. They'll be very close to that. The turbocharged engines, of course, with more horsepower, they got to pay it with feet someplace, and that's the fuel.
Well, if they're going to feed it, then why not now?
I think they were going to have to make 2 stops at least, and with it being a 3-hour race, it's probably carefully calculated out. To make a stop now, they would still have to do at least 2.
So what they're really wishing is that Camel Light car had, if it was going to have a problem, a mishap, have it about 15 minutes later, would have served their ends well.
It would have helped them very well, yes. As
Jeff,
it is, Jaguar's in a good spot right now.
Jeff Brabham stays first, and we're coming down on a restart, and look at that Nissan tear away. I mean, he's got his boot in it hard as they round that big final horseshoe. And away we go. Back under green another time.
And once again, even on cold tires, look at how smooth this car appears. The combination of Jeff and the Nissan GTP just are beautiful to watch right now. Look at that, not a wiggle, just the acceleration, 800 horsepower going down there very smoothly.
Second place car, and then there is a big interval back to that second place car as they begin to sort them out again. Bruce Levin car being driven by Klaus Ludwig, still being scored in the second position as they sort them loose.
Right, he's showing there in third, actually, just following that little red number 80. That's the Ferrari. And here's our in-car shot. Now we're going to see Bob try and get by the number 80 Ferrari as well.
That's a Camel Light car, that number 80. Not in the overall, but running strong in the Camel Light series.
That's right. That's a 3-liter non-turbocharged motor, just straight fuel injection. You saw an idea of the horsepower difference. The 962 was just able to squirt on by, no problem at all.
You live here in Miami. What is the real reaction of this community to having this event? I know that when it first came in, there were a lot of naysayers.
There really were. It was so unfortunate, but they have learned very quickly. And this just... Oh, there's 66.
Now there's the car that had been running in 10th. We saw it pit just moments ago. It had gone up to 8th. Eddie Cheever. There was no driver change. Formula One champion Eddie Cheever, Formula One star, now extricating himself from car number 66. That's unfortunate, and their hopes are down to 2.
Now, major disappointment at this point. I can't even imagine what went wrong, because they were just in the pits a few minutes ago to take advantage of that yellow.
A disappointed and upset Eddie Cheever walks away from car number 66, and he did not need any assistance.
No, he certainly looks angry at this point, too. I can't even imagine what it was. But no, he's saying that there's nothing can be done. The marshal would have gone over to see if there's any possible way of getting that car running again. Eddie just waved his hand, saying no.
Brabham in the 83 stays first. Klaus Ludwig in second. Chip Robinson third. Then it is Price Cobb in fourth. And in fifth is A.J. Foyt. So you have Porsche 962s 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the board, with Nissan out in front. And then 2 Jaguars running nose to tail in 6th and 7th position. The number 61 car with Lammers and the number 60 car with Martin Brundle.
He is something else, too. Martin Brundle is just an incredible talent, somebody that's been getting better and better every year in the Formula One cars. To put him into a weapon like this, great fun to watch. He throws it around. It's hard to believe he's playing with 700 horsepower. He's just pitching and catching.
Gentlemen, further to the question of what happened to the Jaguar, that 66 car with Eddie Cheever is giving him all sorts of reasons to be angry. Yesterday in practice, something went wrong inside the car. He came in when he felt a bad vibration. It turns out his motor had broken itself. An oil line broke. They had a brief fire, replaced the engine, but obviously that car was not ready to take the race today. Standing by, folks, there's plenty of great racing to come in our ESPN live coverage of the Grand Prix of Miami. We'll be right back.
The Miami Grand Prix, there are problems for car number 60. Dave Despain has more.
Yes. When problems come, they come in a hurry. First, Eddie Cheever pulling off the course in his Jaguar. We've asked the crew, what's the problem? They say, well, we don't know, because he did not radio in. He said, you can grab him when he gets back, but you better be careful, because he's going to be very, very upset. Then the 60 car comes on pit road now. That car has been black flagged, and he should be coming in right behind us now for the penalty. He is accused of passing under the yellow. Let's check with Tony Dow, the team manager. Tony, what's the penalty and what's the charge?
The penalty was stop and go, and the charge was overtaking under a yellow flag.
Guilty?
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Protest?
We'll see.
Oh, but
we'll think about it.
Well, the Jaguar team will consider their options here.
Room for doubt. There is some room for doubt. He came around the corner, tucked behind one of the slower cars, and didn't see the yellow flag. So he's not very happy about the decision.
You communicated with him on the radio about this?
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait until after the race to see what happens?
Well, I think so.
Thank you, Tony. Tony Dow is the team manager. He says not guilty as charged. However, the penalty has been assessed as the number 60 Jaguar came on pit road, a stop-and-go penalty, and then he returns to the racetrack.
That was the 6th place car, and that leaves now in 6th place Martin Brundle, back with the leader. That is not the leader. That's that wonderful little convertible, number 39.
John Gunn.
John Gunn in that Chevy. He wishes very much he were the leader. Take a lot of wishing to get him up first with that little car, but it's fun to see John back. The average speed on the leader is 90.69 miles per hour as Jeff Brabham continues to show the way here in this car number 83, trying to win it back-to-back.
Well, Brabham continues to look so smooth. Just watching all the other cars as they're exiting that corner onto this particular straight, they're all chattering. They tend to hop a bit, looking like they have very hard suspensions, hard springs, very stiff shock absorbers. This car is just barely hopping, and it's so smooth, it's very deceptive. Now, it looks like Brabham turned in very tight at that point. I think it was to miss a piece of a car. A car had lost some. There we are right there. That's one of the extra cars. I think that may be the GTP Light of Lamas. Can't tell, can't get a name on it right now. But there was a hood piece. Brabham made an instant decision to change his course in the middle of that turn.
Nose is gone. There you see it lying on the track.
Very quick reactions on bat, as you might well expect from Brabham.
And it hammered up here in those tires. You can see at the top of the picture, those tires again took the energy out of that crash, spun it across the track, and it ended up back down here where you see it lying. And there is the Jim Downing car coming through that was so late getting here. His truck broke down on the way to the track.
Now, what this may do, Ken, this is the yellow flag situation that we talked about the Nissan wishing for.
And
it will undoubtedly bring out a pace car once again, and they should hop in the pits to get rid of one of their stops. Perfect timing for them.
Let's see if that pace car indeed is going to come out here and pick up the field. I think it would have to. There's debris out there, and that car is not going to move under its own volition. Car number 83, Brabham stays first, Ludwig in second, Chip Robinson's 962 is third, Price Cobb in fourth. As we watch the driver clambering out, unstrapping the helmet, here's Bob Barsha.
Gentlemen, we're about to play a hand of pit poker. In the fourth place car, Chip Robinson is beginning to wonder about fuel. Now, they think they can go halfway. They're hoping that the leaders will pit so that they can do so too, take on fuel and tires. The Miller High Life Porsche team hopes to do just one stop, one driver change, not one stop, one driver change, one set of tires, and hope to get back out, stay in contact. A year ago, they got burned. They ran out of gas about 4 laps from the finish. Derek Bell had to come in for a late change that cost him the race. Now the leaders are going to come in, and here comes the number 14 Porsche of defending series champion Chip Robinson. Quickly, Kevin and the crew go to work. Kevin wearing the green hat at the right rear tire. Kevin Durand, the crew chief. Now this is a pit crew that does not know each other as well as they used to before the Porsche IndyCar program took away some of the more experienced crew people away. Now our leader in the Nissan is also in. That's what these guys wanted. They wanted to be able to make a fuel and tire stop while the leaders were also stopped for fuel and tires. So right now, the strategy is going on hot and heavy here in the pits, and Chip Robinson and Derek Bell hope that they have made the right decision as he pulls out to get back into the race. He may have even improved his position on this pit stop. We'll be back to see if Chip Robinson made the right decision when we return to live racing in Miami after this.
We're live in Miami, and you get an in-car view of the action here as the cars circulate under a yellow flag. And during that caution, significant activity down here along pit road as Jeff Brabham has come in after an easy Sunday drive through the streets of Miami. Piece of cake out there, huh?
No, not really. There's a lot of hard work, and you know, I could get a little bit of a lead, and then it seems like you know, the car goes off a little bit, all the others start to get going, one or the other, so I can get about 10 seconds, and that's about it. So the guys are pushing us really hard, and it's going to be a long race, and we're just going to have to hang in there and see what happens.
We saw the cool suit come up. We see the sweat on your brow. It's warm and humid. How physically demanding is an hour stint?
Well, it's very much so in these cars, you know, because they're very hot inside, and there's no air rushing over the top like I'm really used to. So we run the cool suits, and we have a drink bottle in there, and but really, you just have to get in shape. That's all there is to it.
Now, he's got 2 hours to go. Will you leave him out there to the finish now, or would there be a plan in which you might get back into the car?
No, I'll get back in the car and do the last stint, and we're just going to have to go for it.
No problems at all. Things under control. Let's go down pit road to Bob Barsha.
Klaus Ludwig has just gotten out of Bruce Levin's Porsche. Klaus, what's it like out there?
It was good fun. The Nissan a little bit too quick, but second position was not so bad.
What do you suppose it's going to take to run down that Nissan? Is it just going to be luck, or is there something you can do in your own part?
I think my partner, Hans Stock, is a little bit better than Jeff Brabham's partner, so we might catch up now a little bit.
Klaus Ludwig looking remarkably cool after about an hour spent in a very hot race car. A lot of Texaco executives here on hand, and they're getting a good show from their car.
I don't know that I'd agree with Klaus Ludwig. I'm a big John Morton fan, and I think he does just fine in anything he climbs into. And this 6th annual Grand Prix of Miami certainly have an impressive array of characters, of which John Morton is one of them as a driver, not just as a character, but as a very fine chauffeur, and it's all on his shoulders. After this swing around of pit stops and driver changes, the number 16 car goes up on the leaderboard in first place. Price Cobb at the controls, and into second goes the Jaguar of Brundle and Nielsen. Then into third moves Brabham. He falls back 2, and that would now be John Morton. John Morton driving in the number 83 in third. Chip Robinson being shown in fourth, and then in fifth spot they would show the Bruce Levin car. Klaus Ludwig, and Hans Stuck is now at the controls of that car. And again, we have pictures from inside the B.F. Goodrich car outside the top 10. Not a good day. The car spun early, transmission problems on the machine. The reason for the second caution, if you're just joining us, Camel Light car, Charlie Monk's machine, was the one that took the serious hit.
And it was right at the spot where you anticipated problems just prior to the race starting. It's at the end of the straight where they're braking from 150 to 160 miles an hour into a very tight left-hand corner. There's a little bit of an area where you can try and run into if you think you're going to have problems, but obviously he didn't anticipate any problems, and in the exit of the corner, tagged that tire wall pretty good.
Down on Biscayne Boulevard, Biscayne Bay, that's where you're watching now. A lot of folks getting a free view here of the Miami Grand Prix. A lot of big boats have pulled in just for the weekend to enjoy this wonderful festive occasion here in Miami. We'll be back with more, getting set for a start shortly in the Miami Grand Prix after these messages. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
One of the big racing stories of 1988 is the effort to slow down the cars. NASCAR stockers wear a plate like this under their carburetor to reduce the airflow to the motor and thus cut the horsepower. Well, turbocharged IMSA engines also get a restrictor this year. It looks like this, and it goes here in the turbocharger air intake. What the turbocharger does is rams air into the engine so that a turbo motor makes more power per cubic inch than a normally aspirated counterpart. With this restrictor in plates, that air intake is cut from 2 3/4 inches down to 2 1/4, and horsepower drops by 20%. Now, NASCAR went to restrictors to slow the cars down so they wouldn't fly in the grandstand. IMSA wants this restrictor to slow down the turbocharged motors and allow the non-turbo engines to remain competitive. And for the mechanics, the trick is to find a way around the restrictor and get that horsepower back.
1 hour, 5 minutes into the event, and the light is back onto the caution car. We thought we were coming up for a start. They put it back on. Apparently, they're still removing some debris on the track. And as we get set for a restart, here's how the overall leaders shake out. Martin Brundle with the Jaguar after these pit stops will now be the leader. Martin Brundle in number 60 Jag will be first. The Nissan with John Morton replacing Brabham at the controls is in second. And then in third is the Porsche 962 number 14. Al Holbert's car, Chip Robinson there. At the keyboard of car number 3, it's Oscar Larari from Argentina in 4th place, and in 5th place is Klaus Ludwig's 962, which currently has Hans Stuck driving in that car, number 86. Then in 6th is A.J. Foyt, and I think we're going to get at least another lap before they turn them loose. So let's pause for this message and then be back for the start with live coverage on ESPN of the Miami Grand Prix.
Inside the office of Bob Wallach, making his way around in the BF Goodrich Porsche as the race continues here at Miami. Now down in the pits, we've got a pit stop going on right now for the number 31 Momo Buick March. Going into that car will be the remaining Andretti in this race. That is Jeff Andretti, the youngest of the Andrettis, who will go to the mall later this year to share a Porsche in an effort to run the 24 hours. There was a lot of question about whether Jeff had the stuff to drive these prototype cars, but he's getting his opportunity here on the streets of Miami, driving a normally aspirated 3-liter, 4.5-liter, that is, Buick V6 engine. You see him getting strapped in now. Father Mario and brother Michael standing by to see how Jeff does, because come June, they're going to try 24 hours in these big fire-breathing prototype cars. 4 wheels go on the car. The window gets clean. Strapping in can sometimes be a problem if you're not the same size as your co-driver, and that appears to be the case right now for Jeff Andretti as Steve Phillips is out. Andretti is in and back into the race. Now let's go back up to our executive producer, Ken Squire.
In the Camel Lights competition, as we watch one of those prototypes move back onto the field, the Claude Bellolina car is leading in lights. We're talking about the overall in the race. The Durst car is in the second spot. That's Hessert, number 9, and David Loring. And in third is Morgan's number 01, and Fanato's number 80 is fourth. That's in the lights. As we think we're just about set. As you can see, the light is off on the pace car. And as we resume, you'll have 60, that Jaguar in front of Martin Brundle, with the 83 John Morton in second place. And we'll see how things shake out. 1 minute and 9 seconds complete of this 3-hour contest. 1 hour down, a third of the way.
It should be very, very interesting. Here we have a brand new race starting. They're all set up, fresh tanks, fresh rubber again, and new drivers. And for the Nissan, now here we go. Brundle's hard on it.
Under green and on the brake. Car number 60 out in front, and a good battle for second around Biscayne Bay. That's the Brabham car now with John Morton at it. Jeff Brabham started it for the Nissan folks, and there's the 14 right there. Chip Robinson, we are still told, is in that car. No driver change.
No, I believe Chip is still there. John Morton is understandably going to be a little bit cautious on his opening few laps until he gets into the flow of things. He has to develop the rhythm, get the feel of the track, and learn where rubber has been put down, where oil is.
Jaguar pulls away, about 20 car length advantage on this restart. 2 cautions thus far in the going. No serious calamities, but a couple of cars broken and rather severely. There you see that interval, back 2, second, third, and then in fourth, the number 3 car just behind them. The green, white, and orange car is Oscar Lowari's Porsche 962, one of the Walter Brune cars. Here's a move being made by the 962, number 14, and John Morton finds himself now in 3rd position and being challenged by Oscar Lowari in the number 3 on the outside. Morton trying to hold him here.
Morton is still going to be on fairly cold tires at this point, and that's going to hurt him for a few laps. His smartest move is, in fact, just maybe to move over and follow Lowari. Try and get an idea of what their cars are doing. Watch where they're slipping and sliding, where they're very secure, and he can get into his rhythm quicker doing this.
Into turn 1, headed for turn 2. The battle is for 3rd. John Morton trying to keep Nissan there, and the number 3 car, Oscar Lowari, trying to take that position away. Behind them is the number 86 car that had been running in 2nd, with Hans Stuck now at the controls of that car. In 6th is Jan Lammers in the other XJR Jag that continues to run. 1 Jag of the 3 has retired. Rob Dyson now replacing A.J. Foyt in the number 1 is in 7th. Price Cobb, we are told, still stays in 8th. And Bobby Rahal is in the Turbo Chevy out of the Hendrick Racing stables in 9th spot.
This is where John Morton, too. There's a nice shot of Chip Robinson just doing a beautiful job. Again, he too, is one of the smoothest drivers. And there's a dead Buick that's coming into the pits. Can't see what number that is.
What if that's the 49 that Whitney Gantz had out there today?
That could be the one.
That's a brand new team. They only got that car on Monday in the hauler on Tuesday, and that's the car.
There's Whitney just walking by in front of the car.
The Parks car. Drag racing people making a stab at prototype racing.
Well, good for them. I'm glad to have them join us.
From the in-car camera being shown in 18th position, this car number 67. Busby car having its problems today, trying to get sorted out here. Running several laps down to the leader is car number 67 as it closes up on one of the Fords.
And really impressive. We noticed that Bob Wallach is still in that position. He seems to be the man of IMSA that does the Ironman stints. He just can run in endless temperatures and doesn't seem to show any problems.
Last lap at 92 miles an hour, and notice that Lowari has moved in, challenged, and moved by. John Morton taken over in 3rd. Now the 83 has fallen to 4th and right into the lap of Hans Stuck in the number 86 Porsche 962. Well, it's live today on ESPN, the Miami Grand Prix. Beautiful day here in Miami. Thus far, a superb race.
Stuck is really going to be impatient here. He is very pleased with the position that his teammate Klaus Ludwig has turned the car over to him in. And he's a charger. Here he goes. He's just trying to fill up the mirrors, and he's even going for it. See the car wiggle under braking. The rear brakes are just at the point of locking up. And every time you go over a bump, those tires lock that tiny little bit left to right and pitch the car back and forth. But Stuck is spectacular. Probably has greater car control than any other driver here. Amazing to watch.
Hans Stuck moves into the 4th position as the number 83 falls back on the leaderboard to 5th. There's the number 86.
I think he is going to be the charger of the afternoon now for this particular session that we have just entered with the driver changes. Stuck should be the real spectacle right now. The big trick that he is going to have, he historically has been known as a real, and there, just getting sideways, entering the corner. I was just going to say, historically, he loves getting cars sideways, smoking the tires. Look at the car control. Incredible. Loses just a few seconds there on a spin that otherwise might have put someone else into a wall. But phenomenal. And watch, he'll keep going and charging hard.
Tires flat spotted?
They will be a little bit, but I think for him getting things going again so quickly, they may not damage them at all. He will know himself. He'll feel a vibration in the car if they have serious flat spots. Here's a replay of what happened. Coming down very hard towards the corner and late braking. Now see the car starting to turn very slightly. His front wheels are just pointing in there. He's got the rear wheels running the edge of the track, loses adhesion, he gets onto the gray matter, the area where it just isn't giving optimum traction, and he lets off the brake so as not to flat spot the tire any longer. Now, dumps the clutch, does his AA fuel burnout, gets around sideways, it doesn't spin. Look at the correction action in the front wheels. Just enough to hold it and gives a maximum acceleration getting back underway again.
And of course he was blessed.
Incredible.
could have been collected pretty easily there. He was vulnerable, and he only dropped 2 spots.
The man is really fantastic to watch.
Down here on Biscayne Bay, Miami. We're watching the Miami Grand Prix live on ESPN. Next week, it's Winston Cup stock car action. And by the way, the Winston Cup cars were in Australia today, where Neil Bonnet came home in first place. More on that coming up Wednesday night or Thursday morning, 12:30 a.m. on Motor Week Illustrated. Don't miss Motor Week and Speed Week here on ESPN each week.
Now, here we have the Nissan and the Jaguar playing, and we can watch as the cars are accelerating out of corners. Let's just see if anything the Jaguar crew chief holds to be true. But he's going to try an outbraking maneuver again. Morton is being very, very gentle down at the end of the straight. See again, the Jag just chatters under braking. It does that little bit of pinching.
Jan Lammers to 4th. Jan Lammers into 4th. And as the Nissan drops back, about to be challenged by Hans Stuck. Dave Despain, what's happening to that Nissan?
We're going to try to find that out from the crew chief, Ashley Page. We might note that the big cheer down here was for Hans Stuck's spin, because that's obviously one of the cars these guys have got to deal with. And when they saw Stuckey have his problems, they were very fortified by that. Ashley Page is the crew chief on the car that John Morton is driving. He's been talking on the radio and running the watch. Ashley, what's the problem? You're backpedaling through the field.
Well, we're having a little brake problem right now. We don't quite know what it is, but otherwise the car is running very well.
Was it evident in the earlier portions of the race, or has it just occurred now?
There was a hint of it, but it wasn't really a problem.
Is it something you can give him any help on, or you just got to leave him out there?
If the opportunity comes, we'll give him some help on it if we can. Otherwise, there's not much we can do.
Considered answers and a problem for Ashley Page on the car that led this race early on. We'll be back with more of the action here from the Miami Grand Prix live on ESPN.
1 hour, 18 minutes into the Miami Grand Prix 3-hour contest here on this beautiful course. And in the Camel Lights competition, it's a dandy battle that's developing between this Aqua car out in front, the Hessert-Loring car, and the number 97, which is back to second place. That had been leading Claude Bellolina. That's the Whitehall Racing Team out of Atlanta, Georgia. Bellolina, great French driver. And they've been swapping first and second back, and for the moment, Hessert and Loring are leading. Remember, they won the first race of the season at Daytona in that car number 9 that you see right there. The 97 Pontiac right with them, one of those spice-built cars.
Well, I'm sure that the Hessert-Loring cars make their sponsors very happy. Last year, the GTP Light class was really dominated, although the championship wasn't won by the Pontiac Fieros. They were an incredibly fast car, and now we've got a new one. We've got a Tiga or a Taiga chassis with a Buick motor. Again, great competition, but of course, Jim Downing with the old Mazda, our perennial winner.
Car number 60, the lead car, overtaking that Camel Light classification. And notice that Chip Robinson is closed right up on that Jaguar as we have another confrontation between the best out of Stuttgart and the best out of Great Britain. That ought to be fun before the day is over. And we continue to update you on this story on the Brabham John Morton effort at car number 83, which has slipped back to 5th. The defending champions off their feet right now, a little off the gate.
Yeah, I don't really know what is wrong with the car either. It doesn't give any indication of a serious brake problem. Normally, if a car is suffering brake problems, one end of the car will be moving quite violently. If the rear brakes are locking up, you'll see the back of the car twitching, and if the fronts are locking, you'll see smoke off the tires. I think, personally, that maybe John is just not into the rhythm that Jeff Brabham had, and he's wisely being very, very comfortable with it. It's very difficult, and it goes against a race driver's ego to know that your co-driver was a lot quicker and that you're going slow.
Let's go back to the lights. There's the Hessert-Loring car that's leading in the Camel Light category. What a story there. Hessert, of course, owns a big Jaguar dealership up in New Jersey, and David Loring lives way up in Conway, New Hampshire, way up in the White Mountains, gets 10 cords of wood, splits it up, puts it in the old fire, and tries to stay warm through the winter, and then comes down to Florida a few times and wins once in a while, and right now they hope to do that today.
I've heard that you and he go out in the woods and cut together.
No way. Well, you know, we may have to with the cost of heat these days. Here's Dave on. Here's problems on Morton's car. Number 83, running in 5th, has spun.
I believe that is at the end of the straight, and maybe that's an indication of those brake problems. He's had to do a very, very slow turnaround here, and this is frustrating. He knows that time is just slipping away. All the other cars are going racing on by.
Hans Stuck has moved into 5th. Now the Dyson car with Price Cobb has moved into 6th as they try to get the 83 fired once again. And the defending champions' colors may not go up on the blind? They say he went straight up. We can look at it, we're being told.
Well, he's still under power. That's somewhat good news. This is an area at the end of the straight. If you've got problems, instead of running into a solid concrete wall, you can go straight. Look, there's no smoke from the brakes. There's no tires locked up. That's a very strange thing to happen.
Right off at the end of Biscayne Boulevard.
I just don't. I imagine he is having a braking problem, because even as he pulled in there, no, he's continuing.
Car number 1, A.J. Foyt, has moved up into the 7th spot. Brabham is now being spotted in 8th on the leaderboard. Here's Bob Varsha with more on the story.
Down in the Nissan pits, Jeff Brabham is suiting up for battle once again. He was on the headsets with John Morton, his co-driver, a moment ago, and what he was being told was that the brakes are fading away on the car. He's having a hard time finding an open space on the racetrack to pump up the brakes and make them work. So right now, Jeff Brabham is getting battle dressed once again in case he needs to get in. If they can get a yellow flag, get Morton in here, bleed the brakes, try to build a good race car, and we may see Jeff Brabham back on the attack once again.
It's only been a 20-minute intermission for Brabham before he gets back in this car. See when they're going to bring him in. Jaguar now leading in Miami. Martin Brundle at the keyboard with Chip Robinson in the Porsche 962 second. And Oscar Loari has gone into third, the Argentine, in that car number 3 out of the Bruin Racing Stable, or Yost Racing Stable. And then in fourth is the number 61, Jan Lammers, with another of the Porsches. Back with those leaders. Chip Robinson, the Al Hobart team, has won here on 2 occasions. No team has ever won it back-to-back. Nissan was hoping to change that, but those hopes get thinner by the moment.
Well, here's a serious blow right now. Martin Brundle is just on the point of lapping our once leader, and if this happens, it really effectively takes the possibility of a win right out of the picture. And there he goes. Just a clean move under braking. We'll see if John makes any attempt to stay close. Well, it's hard to tell. The car is still looking very, very smooth. I think that maybe John has just got some little problem himself, and this does happen. It's not a slight to John, because as you say, he is a brilliant driver with a record anybody would envy. But perhaps he is just not happy in the car today.
Well, it happens. Good athletes are on it, and then other days they just aren't. For example, Debbie Thomas last night.
A perfect example.
There's the car number 83 now in 8th. John Morton, and let's see if they're going to pit this time through.
Now, Jeff Brabham did make a comment about the fact that he was running a cool suit. That is a little cap and a vest that cools your body down as you're driving. And he said it's a dead airspace inside the car. Sometimes what can happen when you get into a car in a hurry, you pinch off that line. You sit on the line and it just doesn't work. If that has happened to John Morton, it would be a very serious problem for him.
Morton stayed out. He did not pit, and I would presume he's being told to stay out while they prepare for this car to come into the pits.
Yes, they definitely will. They want to try and get as much mileage as they can, but if he is losing sizable amounts of time, they will try and get him in the near future to get Jeff back into the car and see if they can't rectify whatever the problem may be.
So the Nissan that won here a year ago in grand style, 11-second victor just a year ago. Ray Hall in second place is having real problems this afternoon in this Miami Grand Prix, and Martin Brundle's Jaguar continues the run for Walkinshaw. They've won the first race over 24 hours now in the course of 3 with about an hour and 25 minutes by. They're looking pretty stout out here.
They're looking better and better all the time, and the Jags will only have 1 pit stop left. It should just be a quick driver change, get the fresh ones in, and go back out and run again.
Now there you see Biscayne Boulevard. Then that hard left-hander puts him into this artificial part of the course in this giant horseshoe where you can lose or gain so much per lap. Right here.
Very difficult, totally blind, as we saw in the pre-game view of the track. It's just blind. You're looking at concrete walls, and it's very hard to establish a reference point on where to get on the gas. Particularly hard for turbocharged cars because you don't want all that horsepower, certainly too early.
So Chip Robinson lies just 3 car lengths behind the leader with his Porsche 962 as Jaguars colors rise over the Miami Grand Prix. Charlie Morgan has just come to a halt at turn number 1, and Charlie Morgan has brought out the 3rd caution of the day. Yellow is out, and it is a full course yellow here at the Miami Grand Prix. There you see that Spice Engineering Pontiac, the AT&T car. It's just lying here just a few feet to our left, and they're trying to get that rolled away and moved, but it's brought out the third full course caution of the day, which is the break that we've been talking about for some time with Bill Adam, and it looks like they're going to get the break they were hoping for.
Well, I'm sure they're going to try and take it as early as possible, because this will not be a long yellow flag situation. He didn't stop this time. I can't believe that he wouldn't have pulled in. Oh, no, we don't have a full course yellow yet. They still think they're going to be able to get this car out of the way, and indeed they should. He pulled to a stop very cleanly, and the car is mobile to get rolled away.
And they are rolling it back, which will keep it under a green condition, except from the start-finish line through turn 1 and to turn 2. That's the area where they are leaving this caution on at the moment as they roll away Charlie Morgan's car.
Well, the Nissan crew will be upset about that one. I'm sure they were all keeping their fingers crossed the pace car would pull out, but unfortunately it didn't for them.
Well, they rolled the car out as if they were going to go to it, and that's not the case. So we're back here once again in race conditions, and you see Oscar Lowari's number 3 challenging number 14 Chip Robinson a bit here. Meanwhile, up in front is number 60. That number 3 car is your third place car. Oscar Lowari just behind Chip Robinson. There's the leader, hobbling over some of the cobblestones here.
You really do see the cars bounce a lot, and this takes a tremendous toll on you. It is hard on the equipment. It beats up the cars, certainly beats up the drivers.
And there you see the front 3. First, second, and third overall in the event. Oscar Lowari continues to close in now, right there with Chip Robinson in second place, the number 14, the gold car. There's Lowari, the third place machine. Behind him in fourth comes another of the XJR9 Jaguars. Jan Lammers is lying fourth, some distance back.
Now, Lowari is really pushing hard here. He's closing up on Chip, and I believe Chip was actually closing on that Jaguar as well. So we're going to have a great fight here in just another lap or so. You can see Chip is getting a little more aggressive. He's not waiting for the light cars to finish the corner. And if he gets a chance, he ducks underneath and uses the power. Look at this battle. Great one developing here.
And you've got an experienced driver in that number 3 Torno car. Argentinian Oscar Lowari is going to drive for car owner Walter Brune this year on the Formula 1 circuit. Brune, a Swiss millionaire in gambling and slot machines and the like, has decided he's going to go all the way to the major leagues. He's got a 2-car team coming together for this man, Oscar Lowari, and young Italian Stefano Modena. So you'll be seeing them on ESPN coverage of Formula 1 later this year, beginning in Rio in April.
So there you see Oscar Lowari, who now lives in Milan, out of Argentina, and hoping today that he'll pull this car back. He's had a couple of good runs in Miami on previous occasions.
He seems to get along very well in the North American format, even though he basically is a European road racer, but he loves this competition, and it shows today. He is caught right up, and he's really driving with fire right now. You see the car, it'll slide a little bit on the exits, and he's chattering the braking when he gets in very, very deep. Great drive right now.
Front 3 cars all bundled together, 1 Camel Light car sandwiched in there as well. That's the 97 car, which continues to vie for top honors in Camel Light this afternoon with a Hessert Loring machine. At number 97 is currently being shown in second position on the field. Number 97 car, which is Claude Bellalina. I was front 3, and I got to think that Oscar Lowari really wants to get through and take that second spot here if he possibly can the next 2 or 3 laps.
I'm sure he's going to try it. He's pushing the Miller car very, very hard right now. And we saw just wisps of smoke there a second ago. We're going to have to keep an eye on it to determine, is it some sort of a problem that may be developing with the motor, or is it just tire smoke just getting all that horsepower down and lighting them up?
We are halfway in the event. 1 hour, 32 minutes have been completed. And both of the Hendrick cars have had their share of problems and difficulties. Number 22 is going to come back in the race, but it is many laps down, and the 52 has also gone back to the garage area. So the effort being made by Elliott Forbes Robinson and David Hobbs.
And here we go, a great pass by Lowari. He's been setting Chip up, and look at this, on the power earlier, he's got the turbo back. Great racing. Just a perfect example. Look at it, he fights back. Oh, sensational. You could see just a trace of smoke off Lowari's right front tire there. He locked it up getting into the corner, but didn't want to let the Miller car back by him. He's fighting very, very hard right now.
Oscar Lowry closing, and now only in front of him is Martin Brundle in the Jag for first place. There you see the leader.
Now, we watched this and we watched that pass take place, and you think, well, don't let him pass. Put your foot down. But these fellas do have their feet down. The turbo just hasn't spun up to develop maximum horsepower.
Terry Visker's Pontiac Camel Light car in there. They get sorted out from that. And here comes the Jag.
Oh, tremendous battle.
For 61 in fourth place.
You can see Lowry is using his brakes harder than either of the other two cars there. He was really squirming at the end of that straight. But because of this battle, they may not even be aware of the Jaguar sitting back there, and he's going to pounce any chance he gets, particularly out of a slow corner where you've got that turbo lag again. That'll hurt the Porsche drivers.
What we're also watching here, guys, is perhaps the battle for the IMSA championship, because that 61 Jaguar trying to put the move, whoa, tight move there on Chip Robinson, is the car that Davy Jones is driving season long for Jaguar. They've got 9 drivers, including all these internationally renowned hired guns that they bring in from race to race. Jones is the designated run for the championship driver, and the guy who's got a beat for that title is the driver of number 14 right there, Chip Robinson, the defending king. So while they are not racing for the lead on the racetrack, they may very well be racing for this Camel GT championship.
David, at halfway, 18 cars in the prototype category were still running, and 14 of the lights. 8 cars have retired from competition. So it's amazing how well they're standing up under the rigors of one of the toughest courses over which the International Motorsports Association sanctions its wars in the course of the year.
Well, as the race wars get better and better, of course, the equipment tends to improve, and so do the people that work on it. And they have just got the finest bunch of professionals preparing and maintaining these cars that you could possibly ask for. These are 800 horsepower machines, and you see the beating they take.
Rob Dyson about to go a lap down in the A.J. Foyt car, number 1. That is the 7th place car. Getting lapped by car number 60, Martin Brundle, and now about to go down to Oscar Lowry. 4 cars at the midway point, running within 1 second of each other. Quite a road race.
Just tremendous right now. Just a spectacular battle that we're able to watch right here. And you can see how the little cars are trying to run their own race, but by geez, when they have a train of these people running around you don't want to get in their way.
Well, for a moment, Martin Brundle was in real jeopardy, but now with the Dyson car there, that's a little bit of a breather. Oscar Lowry having some trouble putting a lap on Rob Dyson, driving car number 1, co-driver for A.J. Foyt. He was supposed to drive Foyt with Al Unser Jr. Then Al Unser could not make it at the last moment, and it was a dream come true for Dyson, who saw his first race, and he was 14 years old, and saw A.J. win at Indianapolis. And there goes Lowry underneath the car of Foyt, and the Jag getting through. The Jag on the inside picks up a spot.
Just a brilliant move. Just the number 14 car was occupied only for a fraction of a second as Oscar came to pass the slower car. The Jag ducked underneath and was gone.
And you called it. It was almost like the Jaguar was just waiting there in the jungle ready to pounce, and out it came and clawed into Chip Robinson, taking that advantage, has himself another position. Let's take a look now at the mid-race recap. At the midway mark, the car in front is John Nielsen, Martin Brundle's car, which has led 17 of 60 laps. The average speed down with 2 caution periods, full cautions, at 78 miles an hour. That Jag leader pitted on the 28th lap, and remember, it's just for a splash of fuel. There have been 2 full course cautions and a 3rd caution here that covered about half the track. 4 leaders, 3 lead changes. Cars started, you can see there, 38, and remaining now 30 on the course. These are the retirees from the event. Tim McAdams, car number 8, that had a Junior Johnson prepared engine, has gone away. In the light classification, Brett O'Neill, Eddie Cheever's Jag has failed. Albert Naon's number 72. Looking further back through the field, the 84 was pulled in. That Brabham and Morton started in the early going. Charlie Morgan's car is out. Those are the only retirees, which speaks to the strength of this series. Car number 60. Brundle and John Nielsen stay in first. Segalo Lowry stays second. Lammers and Davy Jones for third, with Robinson and Derek Bell in fourth. More from Miami shortly.
Live at the Grand Prix of Miami here on ESPN, where Jeff Brabham awaits his opportunity to get back into what is apparently a rather unhealthy defending championship race car from Nissan. Brabham stands in the pit lane as they await the car. The crew is ready. It's going to be tires and fuel, and there are also a couple of cans of brake fluid sitting on the wall. Here comes the Nissan. Jeff waves his co-driver John Morton to a stop. Morton unhooked as the car comes to a halt. It's going to be a full-scale pit stop. They'll do everything they can to the car. I haven't seen anybody grab the brake fluid bottles yet, and that is the problem that Morton has apparently been having. He can't get the brakes to work. Off come the nose, and they go right down now into the brake fluid canisters. We're closing 20 seconds on this pit stop now. You can expect it's going to be a long one. I would estimate probably 45, even more, because now they're looking at the brakes themselves, and it looks like they're going to try to, yeah, they're bleeding them. A little burst of flame as the brake fluid hits those hot drums and calipers. A brief burst of flame. Now in goes the brake fluid. Brabham gesturing at his crew to get the windshield clear because he is going to have to mount a charge now. He's more than a lap down to your leaders. Back go the wheels. On will go the nose once again. And we'll go back to the lead battle. I'll let you know when Jeff Brabham gets back on the racetrack.
And it is an incredible battle, and there is some hard contact. I think there's something dragging off the second Jaguar. It got hit pretty hard, the number 61, the Lammers car, as it tried to move around Oscar Lorari.
Well, gee, does he have the fire in his teeth today? He is really fighting tremendously, and this is an incredible battle. Just the sort of thing that a promoter dreams about having.
The Martin Brundle, John Nielsen car is first. The XJR9, and then the team car of Lammers and Davy Jones is in second, and then it's Segala and Lorari's car maintaining third. Maybe we can take a look at that bump again as to exactly what happened as they were contesting second position. And Jaguars are running 1 and 2 here this afternoon in our live coverage on ESPN of the Miami Grand Prix. There you see the front three cars. Back and forth is Chip Robinson. Let's take a look at what happened.
Now here we go coming out. Lorari is wide out of the corner and comes back across, not knowing the Jag is there, and just a little tap. Great work by both drivers. Neither of them got loose, and that's precisely the type of incident that caused the Andretti crash yesterday.
Looked like the right skirt came loose on the Jag at that point, or I'm not sure. It might have been something off the Lorari car. But
no, I did notice it, Ken, that the wheel cover is actually gone on that car now. It shouldn't affect the performance at all, though. First to third.
Where you run, it's tight here.
Just tremendous. 0.84 seconds from first to third place.
Bob Varsha, what has happened to that Nissan?
Well, we'll find out right now, Ken, from the horse's mouth. John Morton just climbed out of the car. John, do you have a handful out there?
Yeah, it was a handful. The brakes started to go away.
I noticed the crew members looking at the tires very closely as well. Is there some kind of problem with the rubber?
No, there's no problem, but the car has a tremendous amount of understeer for some reason. And the biggest problem was, well, it was a combination of that and the brakes, but the brakes were real bad.
You feel like maybe you guys are able to rebuild it and give Jeff a shot?
Well, we're going to keep running, but we're not going to be up very far at the end.
John Morton, subdued as usual. Jeff Brabham will now determine the Nissan's fate.
Disappointing time, and where is the leader in car number 9, the Hessert car in Camel Light? The Hessert-Loring car has come in contact with car number 7, one of the NTW Forge. That's the Pumpelly Bruce Jenner car, the GTP category that collide. The number 9 has been reported leading that category, fighting with that Pontiac number 97 over the past several laps. Unfortunate situation for Hessert and Loring. It's back underway. Doesn't look too much the worse for wear after that incident. Coming at 1 hour, 43 minutes.
Well, here we are. They're just getting by each other again, and at least that time the pass was made cleanly. The NTW car looks like it suffered a little bit of damage on the nose, but I don't think it's anything extensive. You can just see that one headlight cover, the left-hand headlight cover is gone. And on a track relatively slow speed like Miami, an aerodynamic loss of that size really doesn't hurt you too much.
Back to full speed comes car number 9, Hessert and Loring, battling in Camel Light for supremacy. And the Camel Light, of course, almost carried IMSA Racing in prototype a year ago. Not the case this year. This tremendous look at this battle continue.
Oh, gee.
that Buick in the middle of Whitney Gant's car with Jags on either side, I think was in contact with both of them, first and second.
Well, that's an indication. At Daytona, when we were running the Poly-Voltac Corvette, they were passing us in places that we had never been passed before. The Formula One instinct is one just to grab it and go as hard as you can and assume that other people are going to keep out of your way. Right there, one of the cars made a very dangerous outside pass, and seeing the other car on the inside should have expected the Gant's car to move over. He did not anticipate that problem.
First through fourth, 1 second apart as they continue to rip this racetrack up, and they are into some of the light cars, and they're running out of room as two of the light cars, Downing's car and the Choquette car number 4, almost blocking there for a moment.
Just amazing traffic. Oh, and there's a piece just came off that car. Up in the air. I think that's a rear wheel skirt. So we're going to see now if that's both skirts gone off the same car. Now there's skirts on that one, and yeah, both sides are on that car. So that's all right. It must be the other car with both skirts gone now. We'll just see if the aerodynamics are affected in any way. But without question, that second one would have come loose because of the impact. Very easily, we could have lost both of the remaining Jaguars from the race with that one little incident right here.
And note that Oscar Larari in the number 3 has pulled back up again. He's into second. Martin Brundle, John Nielsen's car to third, and Chip Robinson is in fourth. Dave Despain.
John Nielsen looking on with great enthusiasm here as he watches Martin Brundle drive that lead car. John, of course, you saw go to victory lane at the 24 Hours of Daytona. He's had a big grin on his face watching this big battle. Eddie Cheever is not a smiling man here today. Eddie, you're the one Jaguar not out there. What happened?
I've had a really bad weekend. We didn't do very well in qualifying because we broke an engine, and right from the beginning of the race, I was losing oil pressure. And it's the same sort of a problem that a Jaguar had at Daytona, car number 60 that stopped. It's been a really rough weekend for me, and I was really hoping to do well here. This is one of the most important sports car races of the year, and we have a car that is capable of winning, as my two teammates are proving.
As they run so well out there, we know your frustration. I'm wondering if there's a possibility that we might have found the one weak link in this feared Jaguar team when a problem recurs in a long endurance race and a shorter endurance race. Is that the potential flaw for the Jag?
Well, everybody has to understand that this is a new series for us with a different engine. We've been very successful in Europe, and the engine we're running here revs more, and it's a little bit smaller than the one we run in Europe. So we are really into a new category here. I think the engine problem I had will probably be found in something really stupid like a loss of oil leak or something else. But I mean, it was really a difficult race for me right from the beginning because my engine wasn't running and I knew it wasn't going to last very long. But I'm sure the Castrol Jaguars today will run well. And I think I'm really amazed that the competition is as fierce as it is here. I didn't think it would be that difficult. I really thought we were going to walk away with it. That just goes to show you that it's not going to be an easy championship. But I think in the end, the Jaguar Castrol team will set a new standard for IMSA racing.
An unhappy man in his own right, but a confident man for his team. Eddie Cheever will be back with more from Miami right after this timeout.
At Miami, before a gigantic record crowd here today, live coverage of the International Motorsports Association Grand Prix for prototype cars. We've just seen the man who was challenging for second precision pit his car. The number 61 came on pit road, Jan Lammers, and they changed drivers. Cortland, New York's Davy Jones has taken over from the Dutchman. That car has now dropped to 6th. The number 61 Jag is back in 6th position. Oscar Larari's number 3 continues to stay up in that front running position, and second place on the field, the number 60, Martin Brundle's car, with third spot, the number 14 of Chip Robinson in our latest rundown. I think things are going right on form for the Jaguars at this point, Bill Adam.
Well, they have to be very pleased, and certainly the car we're watching here, the Brun car, is being driven very, very hard. Oscar Larari has used everything that car has given him right to the last tee, and I don't know that his teammate Massimo Sigala can keep up that same pace. I think the Jaguar would have a distinct advantage at this point. There's a major pit stop still left for the Larari car. I think the Jags may be able to do it to the end of the race on the remaining fuel.
1 hour, 50 minutes into the event, we have 6 cars still maintaining speed in the lead lap. This car number 3, Larari, continues to stay in front. It gets a little bit of breathing room. And car number 60 is now about to pit. Car number 60, the Brundle car.
Martin Brundle brings the lead. Jaguar onto pit road, and quickly John Nielsen goes to work helping Brundle out of the car. The Air Jacks bring it up for a full 4-tire change all the way around. IMSA is very, very picky about the number of men over the wall. We have had a crash out on the racetrack. The number, check that, he has just spun and touched the wall. So that will be a development behind the leader here as this frantic pit stop continues. And they're having a bit of a trouble getting Nielsen strapped in here. He's getting help from his co-driver. Now all is well. The windshield is clean, and they have repaired the skirts on the rear of the car in the course of the tire change. They are clean and away. An excellent pit stop. 36.5 seconds here for the Jaguar, which should now be set to go the distance. Now let's find out more about what was happening out there on the racetrack.
Well, Dave Despain, Chip Robinson's number 14 got out from beneath him, skidded around, and we've got a serious crash here just below us. Two cars have come together, and it is one of those Buick Marches. That was the body that was the BMW car, and there's a light car underneath it as well, I believe.
Well, definitely be getting a pace car. There's a trail of oil. You can see it there leading to the front of the white Pontiac Fiero. That's all across the track. Potentially very dangerous situation. We'll have to get a pace car, and a disastrous pit stop for the Jaguar. Just couldn't have timed it more poorly.
The car number 55 is involved. Terry Visker. The Huffaker Racing car is underneath.
I think we're going to get a replay of the end of it, Ken.
And car number 31, one of Ian Dawson's cars, has also crashed here. Buick Marches, and there's oil down. Looks like an engine may have scattered and collected that second place car. Let's see if we can discern what happened here.
You can just see in the background as things, now there, the Buick was already up in the air. The Fiero is backwards. I think an engine may have scattered from the traces of oil all over the track.
And I would think it came off the 31, but that's conjecture. That is the Jeff Andretti car. Steve Phillips had just stepped out, and Jeff Andretti had taken over in the machine. And there is oil all the way across the track at this very critical turn 1 directly below us. It's at the end of the start-finish line straightaway. There you see the two cars. Pace car has moved out, and we'll be picking up the field. Third full course caution of the day is about to be put on the Miami Grand Prix. Back in a moment.
Grand Prix, the race under yellow for a big crash in the first turn. That's being cleaned up right now. We're in the Jaguar pits where that crash, as Bill Adam mentioned, was very, very untimely. The Jag had just, in fact, both Jags had just made green flag pit stops and were barely off the end of pit road before the crash brought out the yellow, and that has cost them the lead for the moment. The Rob Dyson team has taken over the lead, as we understand it, just this moment now in the Porsche. We'll be checking on that in a moment. But first, we want to talk about the fact that this series has more variety of power plants, a smorgasbord of motors, if you will, than any other racing series in the world. And Bob Varsha has visual proof of that. Bob?
Nobody puts the motor in motorsports like IMSA Camel GT Racing. For example, like your engine's domestic, name your brand. How about Chevrolet? There you get a choice of either a V6 turbo like this one or any one of 3 V8s. The Hendrick Motorsport team brought one of each. If Buick is your pleasure, your choices are cut to 3. A 4.5-liter V6 in prototype, a 3-liter version in Camel Lights, or the big 3-liter turbo back in the P cars. Pontiac wanted a piece of both the GTP and the Camel Lights classes. They have a V8 and a V6 for the big cars and a 4-cylinder model for the lights machines. Of course, Ford wouldn't be left out of a race, and to this one, they brought a 4-cylinder turbo, a 6-liter V8, and the classic 3-liter Cosworth for the Camel Lights ranks. Porsche fans know all about the flat 6 turbo that has dominated the series for more than a decade. But the Jaguars knocked them off the Daytona winners rostrum a month ago with their howling V12. For the Yuppie set, there's a 2-liter BMW in Gary Robinson's Gebhardt. Italy claims to have invented the sports car. Ferrari has 2 8-cylinder models in the race. If Japanese cars are your yen, Mazda's Rotary has powered the last 3 Camel Lights champions, while this aluminum V6 turbo powers the lone GTP entry from Japan, the defending race champions from Nissan. In all, there are some 18 different engines in today's Miami Grand Prix, but room in Victory Lane for only one.
Thanks, Bob Varsha. 2/3 of the race has been completed live here on ESPN today in the Miami Grand Prix, and controversy abounds now In the latest rundown, Martin Brundle, John Nielsen's Jaguar, and Lammer's Jag are both being shown 1 and 2. AJ's car is up to 3rd, the number 1 car, and then Oscar Lawari is next as the Price Cobb car has pitted. However, where does Chip Robinson and the Klaus Ludwig cars figure into this thing? They were told they were going to come back out on the same lap. They were held here, red flag condition on the end of pit road, a yellow condition, and scored on the track. So there you have it.
It appeared to give every indication of a mistake on the part of the pit exit personnel. There was a red flag shown to them here, and yet now we're hearing they won't be penalized. Now look at this. There's a very tiny car. Ah, and there's the car that lost the tire.
That's the car that was in trouble, was it not? The MTW Ford, number 7, the Jenner Pompelli car.
Yeah.
Which may have been where that incident started. You might want to take another look if we get a chance tonight at where that accident began. Remember, they were saying there was a yellow car in front. That may be the culprit right there.
Well, that's an indication of chassis stiffness. Look at that he's able to continue. You don't see any sparks. There's nothing coming off that car. Now, there is a solid chassis.
Car number 7 back onto pit road, and we are still under a caution as they pick up the debris from this crash at turn 1. More from Miami shortly. Here in luxury, the new leaderboard here speaks to protest. Price Cobb is now being shown back in first place. The number 16 of Price Cobb. That's the Dyson car with James Weaver, with Martin Brundle, John Nielsen's Jag in 2nd, Lammers and Davy Jones in 3rd, AJ Foyt's car in 4th, Oscar Lawari in the 5th position. And it keeps swapping around. 2nd in IMSA racing a year ago to Chip Robinson has the advantage, they say. When you were mentioning the man at the end of pit road was holding those 2 cars, he was doing that under instruction. He's in a radio control from the control tower, and they were telling him what to do, and they were mentioning that they would get the positions back. Say, next week here on ESPN, it's a dandy. From Rockingham, North Carolina, the Good Ranch 500. It's 12 o'clock Eastern. Richard Petty and company all back in full force on that very tough mile. So that's next Sunday, live coverage of the Good Ranch 500. And they'll all be there. Dale Earnhardt and company, Bobby Allison, and 11-time Rockingham winner Richard Petty. Action gets underway noon Eastern next Sunday on ESPN.
True, just spectacular racing of a slightly different type, but great to watch.
Well, we had a lot of fun in scoring an event up in Richmond, Virginia not too far ago with NASCAR, and here today the same problems are holding with IMSA.
It can happen to us all.
Richard Petty had a great line after the Richmond 400. Many people thought he won it. He said, look, I've been doing it for 30 years. He said, scorers are human, and sometimes they err. A lot of people thought he won it. Ricky Rudd thought he won it. It does happen, and here today, I'm sure there'll be, if it came down like this, because the Jag, as you heard, those folks were very unhappy a little earlier in our broadcast today. We're 2 hours and 7 minutes into this 3-hour contest. We've had a major incident. There was fluid all across the track, but it was not from a blown engine. Drivers are saying there was a problem with another car that tapped the Terry Visker car, and he collected that beautiful number 31 Buick March. That same body design was what housed the BMW here a year or 2 back.
That's right.
Bobby Ray Hall and David Hobbs and others were involved in that effort,
exactly.
Which was then pulled. Remember, the body's delaminated?
Very, very sad. It was really unfortunate to see the demise of that team. They were excellent. But now we have a lot of new teams into IMSA this year, and the racing really is phenomenal. I did not think the prototype racing would be this good this year after the slim fields of last year. But thankfully, we have a lot of new sponsors with Castrol coming in big time now with the Jaguar team. And it's a great turnaround for motor racing.
This is a very hard hit for that Buick March team, the red and yellow car, which you saw so beaten up. They got to Daytona late, weren't really ready for that. Tried, did not finish there. And now today, one of their cars looks like it was written off, destroyed. For more from the pits, here's Bob Varsha.
One of the great stories to come out of Miami in recent years is that of the Miami Project, started by doctors at Jackson Hospital to deal with spinal injury. And it gained national attention with the problems suffered by this young man, Mark Bonaconti, son of former Miami Dolphins All-Pro linebacker Nick Bonaconti. Mark was paralyzed in a football accident several years ago. Mark, everyone probably wants to know how are you feeling today?
Well, I feel fine. Everything is going well with me and the Miami Project. I'm a full-time student at University of Miami. And the rest of my time, I'm dealing with therapy and being spokesman with the Miami Project, so everything's going well.
Out on the racetrack, the number 15 car, the John Kalajian Racing Porsche for the Rothbarth and Jourdain drivers, are carrying the number of a fund set up to help the Miami project, and the man behind that is John Kalajian, who has donated his car for that purpose. John himself was injured, paralyzed in a racing crash at Riverside, California about 3 years ago. John, how are you coming along?
Well, I'm doing all right. It's nice to be down here in warm weather. Doesn't look as bad with my vest on, but no, I've been doing quite well,
How did the donating the car to the Miami project come about?
Well, I went over and saw the doctors when I was here last year for the race and got to know them, and they've been helping me out with my rehabilitation. And I thought this was some way that I might be able to help the project, because obviously if they do well, I do well. And it was also a good opportunity for me to meet Mark. Mark came out to stay with us while we ran the car, and I was only just too happy to help.
Thanks a lot, John. A lot of courage on the racetrack and a lot of courage here in the pits as well. We'll be back to live coverage of the Miami Grand Prix on ESPN in a moment.
Minutes into the Miami Grand Prix, and the Rob Dyson car with James Weaver is currently leading the event. Second is a Jag driven by John Nielsen. Third, the Jag of Davy Jones. And fourth, in this very lengthy caution period after this hard two-car crash at turn 1, is Oscar Loari's 962. Running fifth is the Miller car with Derek Bell. And let's go to Dave Despain with more on one guy in here who has more than one concern in this race.
Actually, it's a story of split personalities and headgear down here. Obviously, everybody has to have their headgear. We have ours for broadcast. Emily Dyson has hers, which, well, it needs a little explanation. Emily, can you tell me why your hat looks so funny?
Well, I asked A.J. Foyt where I should stand, which pit I ought to stand in, my own or in his. And he said, well, darling, just remember how your bread is buttered, which side your bread is buttered on. And so he said, you better get in mine. So then I had to decide to get a hat for both. So that's why we created this hat.
So we have the Blaupunk Porsche, which is the car that her husband owns on this side. And then we've got the Coyote team over on this side. That is A.J. Foyt's car. The split personality is really in the person of this guy, because Rob Dyson owns the car that is currently leading the race, but he's co-driving the car that is second out there on the field with your old hero, A.J. Foyt. What I want to know is, which car do you want to see win the race?
Well, the one that crosses the finish line first. You know, it's kind of funny. AJ and I were talking about it, that, you know, what happens if your car's running first and my car's running second? And I said, well, what happens if it's the reverse? And I said, well, hell, we'll just make sure we just run the best car winning, and we just make sure that everybody just runs hard and runs clean. That's the key. And you can do that with AJ, and I know AJ can do it with our guys.
You're a businessman, though. Where do you stand to make the most money here?
Well, I don't know. AJ and I haven't talked about that yet, but I can tell you it's a real thrill to work with AJ. And the Blaupunk Porsche, I'm real proud that the boys are doing such a good job, and it's kind of interesting. I've kind of enjoyed this race kind of more than any other I've ever been in, you know, being able to watch my car race and also being able to be racing.
On the serious side, right now we're seeing your car out in front of the field. You've obviously got the drivers capable of winning this race. As a team owner, do you see yourselves possibly taking that checkered flag today?
Well, it's there's a lot more racing left to go, and, you know, these walls are kind of tight, but Price is experienced in these cars. He's proven it time and again. So I hope that we can put it together, but by golly, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, Dave. You know, racing's like that, so we got to be real careful.
Thank you, Rob. I like your cap. Rob Dyson, who owns the lead car and is co-driving with A.J. Foyt in the car currently running second. Ken?
Great story, David. It was 1961 when Charlie Dyson took his kid to Indianapolis down from Millbrook, New York, to watch A.J. Foyt win that 61 Indy 500 in the old Bill Amstead, Shirley Murphy, Sheridan Thompson car, the late Bill Amstead and the late Shirley Murphy. Started AJ's career, and it really started Rob Dyson saying, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what and today is probably the biggest day in Rob Dyson's racing life, to be able to sit in the same car with the guy that he idolized so much as a kid. AJ doesn't like that at all. He doesn't like to be reminded that he is that old.
Well, it's only on paper that his age shows, because he can still race a car with anybody at all.
Price Cobb is being shown in first. And that stayed on the board and was scoring now for the past 15 minutes under this lengthy caution. Seemed to indicate that he's holding on to that. Now, under this caution period, they certainly have enough fuel to go to the finish on the 962? What do you think?
Without question, they will definitely make it at this point, and it's really going to be a flat-out sprint, which for the drivers is a perfect situation. Here, there's no strategy of taking it easy to get better mileage. You go out and you race. Just the best possible thing for them.
All right, they're loading the pistols for the final shootout here at Miami today, and we'll be back to show you all the action of that very shortly. It's the Miami Grand Prix, where Price Cobb now commands. It's a bit of a surprise. Stay tuned.
We are back live at the Miami Grand Prix, where cars continue to circulate behind a yellow flag, and there is a reason for that. Because of the big accident at the pit exit, cars were held up. The scoring got all discombobulated. Now, it's all done by computer, but human beings are punching those keys. So what we are doing right now is keeping the cars behind the caution flag, or so IMSA is telling us, in order to make sure that they have everybody back where they're supposed to be before they throw the green flag and turn this whole course green and back to the kind of racing that we've been watching all day long. Now let's go back upstairs to our executive producer, Ken Squire.
Well, as they try to get them sorted out here, Bob, we have 2 hours, 18 minutes complete. 2 hours, 18 minutes down in the event. And there you see the pace car and the remainder of the field behind them. And what they just did was send around 10 cars to go into the back of the field. And among those cars was the number 14 car and the number 86. So they will be in that lead lap when we get ready to go. But there is a lot of smoke beginning to show on car number 14. That is the Al Holbert car. Motor Week Illustrated keeps track of auto racing round the world. Every week, host Dave Despain presents highlights of the week's Formula One, kart, NASCAR, and IMSA events, plus profiles of the men behind the wheel. Auto racing news and previews of the top weekend events. Watch for Motor Week Illustrated each week on ESPN. There's the pace car, and there you see Price Cobb's number 16 perched in first place. A.J. Foyt's car right there going by, but we are told that Brundle in the 60 and the Jag of 61 are running second and third. And there's the 14 car, which has been smoldering a little of late.
He has shown a fair bit of oil smoke out the exhaust pipe on the overrun. That is when you back off the gas, which would lead you to believe it's some sort of a problem with valves. The oil is actually seeping by, getting into the combustion chamber, and then burning out the exhaust pipe. Hopefully it's not going to be a terminal problem, because they really are so close to the end of the race, and they've done a terrific job with that car.
Let us follow through as what we have from scoring now would have Larari in fourth, then the number 14 being shown in fifth, and Derek Bell is at the steering wheel. In the sixth position, Klaus Ludwig in the number 86. In seventh is A.J. Foyt. And one lap back in eighth is the Nissan with Jeff Brabham. Then in ninth is the number 15 car, the Jim Rothbard car. And in 10th is the number 77 of Tom Gloy and Pete Halsmer. That's in the overall standings as they try to get this field reorganized for a restart. Really an untoward event. Don't see one like this very often.
No, it's kind of unfortunate too, because this does confuse a lot of spectators, never mind confusing us. It's very hard to follow where your hero is in this particular race. Now, they do a good job down here with gigantic billboards that will actually show what's happening on the track, and they do update spectators on a regular basis. So this really is a good place to have a problem like this. You can withstand it better than any other track.
And again, the reason for this was a serious crash right at the pit exit back onto the track. The Buick March crash, the Tony Visker car was underneath it, and I thought they could get the cars around, but they wanted to be careful, they wanted to be sure, so that's what they did. In command of the MetLife blimp, which is bringing us these great pictures today, is Captain Mike Farmer from out in Hunters Creek, Florida, and the camera operator is Bob Michelson today from Maryland. All right, one lap to go till green. And we'll get this one hammering again.
Is that your yacht just sitting right there in the harbor, Ken?
That certainly is, yeah.
Great looking boat.
Yeah. Mine is the 4-foot dinghy off to the left behind the large craft there.
Mine's the one that
Those
sank.
are just a few of the boats that came in for the weekend to enjoy this Miami Grand Prix. It does have a taste and a touch of Monte Carlo, does it not?
Really does. It's nice to see the boats here. In fact, there's a boat of another kind. There's one of those huge offshore catamarans in the infield that $1 million sponsorship from Swift Shear Yachts, I hear. Nice sponsor to get.
Leading in the Camel Light is this car. That's Tom Hessert and Loring They're first in Camel Light. Here's Dave Despay.
Tom Hessert is back in the car. David Loring has just stepped out of the Camel Light leader as we get ready to go back to green. You guys are in pretty good shape, a lap and a half lead.
Well, actually, we're not in terribly good shape. We've got a slight problem with the motor, and we're not certain what it is right now. We thought it was a broken valve train, but it's cleared up. So we've given Tom directions to take it easy and just run for the finish right now.
Are you going to pace yourself against the lead that you got? In other words, are you going to let him whittle away at it and get back on the lead lap and just hope at the finish?
Right now, we're more interested in finishing the race and getting points than pushing the car and winning.
Let's go quickly down to Bob Varsha at the other end of pit road.
I'm with Kevin Duran, crew chief for the number 14 car. Derek Bell presently behind the wheel. He has just finished an enthusiastic conversation with IMSA officials over the scoring. Kevin, what's the problem from your view?
Well, the three leaders, 3, 14, and the Bayside car, we all pitted and got stuck in the pits. We heard on the radio they were going to throw a red and stop the race to get everything in order, which would have worked, but they elected not to do that. And we all lost a lap and 3/4 sitting in the pits. Now they're trying to rectify it. And the means they took is only making it worse. They've taken a lap away from Dyson car and given a lap to both the Jaguar cars on the track. I'm not sure what they're doing on paper.
Well, no matter what they're doing on paper, they're going to solve it now among the drivers on the racetrack. Back to you, Ken.
Back under green at 2 hours, 20 minutes complete of the event. Hessert and Loring, there's the lead car. Overall, and we've got another major, and this is the number 7 car again, the Pompelli car, crashing with the Chevrolet of Gunn at turn 3. There you see Gunn's Chevy, the open car, and the number 7 Ford have come to naught.
Unfortunately, the NTW car has been involved in quite a few incidents today.
In the Camel Light Series, the Ferrari number 80 is running in the 2nd position. That would be Fanato's car. Then Bellalina is in 3rd, and 4th is Howard Cherry and Charlie Monk's number 42 car. Well, there's that number 39. John Gunn, well-known runner from southern Florida with the look of the new look in racing.
Yeah, and
running for many years.
Going to get a pace car once again.
So there comes the 4th caution of the day. So we're back under caution another time. And the number 7 going back to the garage area for some additional work. More from Miami shortly.
And the only thing these folks love to see more than race cars is a television camera. They are truly enjoying the Miami Grand Prix here. You're seeing it live on ESPN. And right at the moment, they have lots and lots of reasons to be watching each other and watching us, because these cars have been circulating under yellow for a long, long time. And this 6th annual Miami Grand Prix may be remembered as much as anything else for the scoring difficulties that have really made it a fairly complex affair here. We're getting down to the end of this. We've really got this thing, got to get this thing sorted out so we can settle it on the racetrack. When that happens, the man who's going to call the action is up topside, and that's Ken Squire.
Dave, I think if we put up any more leaderboards, we should put them up with a disclaimer. It's the way it's been happening here today. Let's take a look at the overall running order as we know it, or we think we know it. Price Cobb in front, John Nielsen from Denmark in 2nd, Davy Jones, the 2 Jags, 2nd and 3rd. Then you see Segala's 962 in 4th, and Derek Bell with the Al Holbert team trying for the 3rd win here. Klaus Ludwig a factor, and A.J. Foyt. They're showing 6 cars in the lead lap, and they're showing A.J. and Rob Dyson 1 lap down with the lights out on the pace car and getting ready to resume this frac car today. Then in the 8th position is that Brabham car with John Morton. They're running lap or so down, getting ready to go for green another time, with 2 hours and 24 minutes now completed in this enduro. And it's turned out to be an enduro for the jury box that does the scoring as much as for the competitors on the field.
It really has. A problem that we'll have to watch out for here. The Porsches historically have always loaded up as they're going on any sort of lengthy pace lap situations. The spark plugs get fouled and they really don't develop good horsepower for a few laps until they clear out. If that's the situation, watch the Jaguars jump into the lead and run away a little bit.
But remember that there is a light car in there between them, which could prove, or maybe it's the other Buick March, in between that leading Porsche automobile and the rest of the field as they get ready for a go.
I believe that's A.J. Foyt stuck in there.
As they come down, it is A.J. Foyt's car, shown a lap down. Into turn 1. Jags want to get up through there. A.J. taking, a lot of smoke out of the Al Holbert number 14 car.
Great deal.
On the sort out. I guess we're going to get this one going. That was a little tight.
There was Segala just made a great pass on the one Jaguar. Now he's moved up a position. There he goes.
That's the number 3 car.
Excuse me, Ken. I was going to say, obviously his motor did not load up. That's running clean.
And he closes in on the 61 car of Davy Jones and Jan Lammert. We're told that Davy Jones now at the controls of the 61 in second. A.J. trying to get his lap back.
This Bruin driving crew is really driving with fire today. They're doing the best job I think I have ever seen them do. Both are very, very good. Look at that Jag just hit that bump. Just slammed it. At that speed, it's very easy to throw the car completely out of shape. And of course, we saw a GTP light car end up against the wall a little earlier.
Segala, not Lowari, now driving the number 3 car and not rated as highly as a driver as is Lowari in the number 3. Let's see what he'll do here. He's already made one very good move, but now he's losing ground.
Now, just a little error. He let the car get a little bit wide, and before he could blink, the Jaguar was inside him and past him.
Denmark's John Nielsen. A lot of people said he was so responsible for the beautiful effort of Jaguar in the long 24 hours. First to second, 4 seconds. First to second, 4 seconds. Well, let's see if we can find out about the scoring situation here. There are some of the folks that are not happy with where they are, talking with IMSA about the situation.
And that's Walter Gerber. That's the Bayside crew chief right there.
Bob Barsha?
Ken, there are pens and papers working frantically down here as the various teams involved in the dispute. That's the 86 car from Bayside, the number 14 Miller High Life Holbert Porsche, and the 3 Torno car are writing out their protest to George Ridenauer from IMSA. He has told them to this point that IMSA is telling them that's racing. They got stopped on pit road. Those things happen. As far as IMSA is concerned, the scoring is valid as it stands. And so the pens and papers came out. And as Dave Despain said earlier, this one may be decided in the paperwork further on down the road.
Well, do you think that confusion was compounded out here? They should have stopped the whole thing with the red flag all the way around, Bill Adam?
No, I still think they should have been let out of pit lane. I agree with the basic Daytona philosophy. If the main field is on the front straight, you don't let them out of the pits. But they had a long wait sitting in pit lane here before the field got to them. They should have been let out.
There you see second, third, and fourth. And here's the number 60 car making room. John Nielsen's car is down the inside and trying to pick a spot right here. Jag against Jag.
Yeah, so much for team orders.
Well, they've said right along there weren't team orders, but nobody believed that.
You can see, I think perhaps the 61 Jag may be having a bit of a braking problem. I've seen twice now where he's gotten deeper into a corner than he really wants to, but I don't know if the Bruin car is capable of catching him because he is using up more roadway. Watch as they exit this corner. Well, we couldn't quite see it there, but the Bruin car at the next kink, the very high-speed kink, is going a good car width closer to the wall than the Jag. There, a lot wider out.
I'm wondering about the number 1 car. Is that running at full power, or is that giving the advantage to Price Cobb and James Weaver?
It could be. On the pit stop, of course, if they know there's only half an hour left in the race, they would turn up the screw on that turbocharger, get a little bit more horsepower because they can use the fuel they have.
Well, closing in to try to put a lap on AJ is the number 60 of John Nielsen as he flies second, or rather third and fourth place out here. And here's AJ Foyt right in front of the number 60 car of John Nielsen. And
Foyt definitely is not taking the standard racing line, shall I put it that way. He's getting the car as wide as he can.
And he can make them real wide.
Oh, I'm sure.
91 mile an hour average in the last lap. We've had 7 lead changes among 6 drivers in our live coverage of the Miami Grand Prix. Now getting through is John Nielsen of Denmark.
Again, that impressive V12 acceleration. Instant response from the motor, and it just helps you so much. Squirt by a car coming out of a corner.
And we need to check the interval between first and second place because here's the leader, Price Cobb, in the Rob Dyson prepared car. Out of Poughkeepsie, New York. He has the advantage, and we think he's got it by a little over 5. We'll try to be a little more accurate for you in a moment. At car number 60, John Nielsen trying to reel him in with now just 30 minutes remaining to decide this 6th annual Miami Grand Prix. interval between this man, car number 16, and the second place car, the Jag, is standing at 5 9/10 of a second.
We talked earlier, Ken, in one of our features, one of our quick facts, about the restrictor that they placed on the Porsche, like Price Cobb's machine here, that number 16. That restrictor probably comes into play as much on a racetrack like Miami as anywhere that they'll run on the circuit. A tight course where they have to accelerate out of a lot of tight corners, because the restriction that they placed on the turbo really affects the engine in what they call the low end, when the engine RPMs are down low. If you're a runner or if you're into aerobics, imagine working up a full head of steam where you're really panning hard, where your lungs are working hard, and then try to breathe through a straw. Try to get the breath that you need through a regular soda straw. You just can't get in enough air to perform at peak capacity. That's exactly what the restrictor does to the turbo. You just can't get enough air to the motor to make the car run as hard as you want it to, and especially when you first stand on the gas, right there, coming right off the corner. The car tends to just lay there and not want to pick up speed. The Jaguar, in contrast, with no turbocharger, comes off those corners hard, and with a 5-second difference between these two machines, that could be the bottom line in the Miami Grand Prix. And we'll be back with more of the action live from Miami right after this.
He's called Miami Mayhem here. For a while, it was car number 60 closing. It was down to just under 5 seconds. Now in heavy traffic, the interval's gone back to 7 6/10 of a second between leader Dyson and number 60. And look at this scramble further back. There's the number 86. The number 86 car, that's Price Cobb in that lead car. But in the number 86 car at the present time, you have Hans Stuck, and directly in front of him is Derek Bell in the 14 car. They're fighting for 5th place. That's a scramble. The bigger scramble just in front sees Brundle and Nielsen's car, with currently John Nielsen driving. Trying to hold on to a spot. There's Davy Jones, number 61 in 4th. Segala is in 3rd. There's the number 3 car that is in 3rd. He closed up and took a real run at John Nielsen, got trapped in some slower cars that really weren't that slow. It was 1st and 2nd, and Camel Light had to settle back for a while.
Well, it's a tremendous battle, and I think we're seeing signs of the strain, that all of the Porsches that we're watching right now, all of them are showing some form of smoke. So they're running a very high turbocharger setting, and they're straining these cars. They have to strain them. The Jaguars are putting up such a challenge, they can't. Look at great move on the inside there. Another sensational braking move by Segala to pass the Jaguar.
Back to 6 8/10 of a second between 1st and 2nd as we watch 3rd and 4th. That car number 3, Segala.
The Brun car has been most impressive all day long. Really, just tremendous. The crew have got it set up well, and both drivers are doing a great job with it.
Davy Jones back into 4th place. Derek Bell is in 5th.
I believe that's Klaus Ludwig in the 86 car now. It looks like his helmet in the car.
There you see the number 3 car, Segala, who's done an outstanding job here in the last half hour.
Yeah, that definitely is Ludwig in that car right now.
Here's Ludwig in the 86 car, and remember that is the 6th place car. 6 cars in the lead lap. Price Cobb in the Rob Dyson-owned machine stays 1st here. Something if he can pull it off, and again, that interval as time runs out. 2 hours, 35 minutes have been completed of the 3 hours to be run. The question now is there time for John Nielsen to close in on the number 16 Porsche 962. Here's the 86 car running in 6th.
You couldn't even imagine a better battle than what we've got here. The level of talent is just unbeatable.
Attempting to get a leg up on car number 14 is the 86 Klaus Ludwig at the controls. Meanwhile, up in front, it shrinks back to 5 seconds between Price Cobb in his Porsche and the Jaguar with John Nielsen.
Now, Ludwig is not running with his headlights on just to make it a show for the spectators. What he's doing is trying to alert every little car that he can, whether it's every slower car, whether it be a GTP light or another GTP, that he is coming through. If he can get their attention just that fraction quicker, maybe have them move over for him, he might get past somebody that might give someone else trouble.
13 cars have retired from the event. Final moments of the 1988 Miami Grand Prix. This is the man to beat. It is Price Cobb. James Weaver, the co-driver, in number 16, trying to stay in that lead, and the lead is being cut into on every lap by the XJR 9 Jaguar, being driven by John Nielsen. It's an outstanding race. It's had its difficulties, some major scoring problems, which we'll be hearing about for some time after this event. Now there's the leader in Camel Light. Loring and Hessert in number 9, going for 2 straight. Interval stands at
6 seconds even, coming down.
2:36 complete. Tom Hessert out of New Jersey. Mighty proud of the effort they displayed in the twice round-the-clock race, and now over 3 hours trying to duplicate that feat. And as you heard a little earlier, having some problems.
Yeah, it looks like he's following orders because he is going very gently.
Going back to the leader. Cobb, second place, IMSA standings a year ago. James Weaver out of Great Britain, so smooth and executes so well in these turbo cars.
Very, very good driver. He came over to North America very much as an unknown driver, had run some in Europe, but really didn't have a great reputation. He has been perfect over here, no mistakes at all. Just watching the Corvette here, just pulling away from that NTW car.
About to see if that interval has been clipped.
61
and car number
Jaguar
61 is in trouble.
with AJ Foyt.
That is the 4th place car. And AJ's car getting snarled. 61 trying to get righted and get back in this. The interval shrinks to 4 4/10 seconds. As car number 61, Davy Jones out of Court of New York, gets righted about here.
Terrible, costly mistake there. Looks like both cars are continuing with no loss of speed. I can't see any body parts loose on other cars, so aerodynamically they should be fine. It's just the time loss that's really going to be damaging to them.
And with 2 hours and 38 minutes complete of the 3-hour time, it's back to this first place battle. There's the leader, Cobb, maintaining a very steady pace. And let's look at this interval back to the second position car. Staying at 6 seconds. Nielsen trying to make up time with the Jag, and it comes back to a Porsche Jag battle. Somewhat a duplicate over a shorter time than round number 1 of the IMSA series for 1988. Here in Miami on ESPN, it's live as Price Cobb tries to hold on for what could be the biggest victory of his career.
It really could. This not only is a big payday financially, but it's a tremendously prestigious race. As we keep alluding to the Monaco-like setting, and for some reason the Miami Grand Prix continues to hold on to that prestige, so everyone wants to win here.
Leader, heavy traffic. There's the second Buick March, the team car in that terrible wreck, and there's the leader in Camel Light, the Hessert Loring car, being passed by the second place car, John Nielsen. As you got a sense of the interval between those two cars, and we're now getting the interval at 4 3/10 seconds. There's that second place car, number 60, really closing in now. They must be on the radio saying it's now or forget it.
Well, they'll be using all of the RPM that the crew chief will be allowing. If they have started the race with any sort of a reduced pace, it's thrown out the window now. They've got 25 minutes left or 20 minutes left in the race, and they really have to get those 4 seconds back. Once they're up to Price Cobb, there is no telling that he is just going to move over and say, yes, there you go. He is going to fight.
There's John Nielsen, born in 1956, started racing. He was 13 years old and caught. Trying to get sorted out here.
And a very dangerous, wisely pulled back. He was almost alongside of another GTP light car, but because of this poor visibility, he didn't want to anticipate the other drivers having seen him. Wisely pulled back.
Danish karting champion when he was 16 years old, John Nielsen. Whoa! Almost into the back of car number 80.
And he's still not going to get by him. This is a costly position for him right here. He'll lose a lot of ground.
Now remember, that's the Ferrari of Fanato and Maldretti that has been running very well in the Camel Light series. That's just in front of him. Here we are back with the leader another time. Price Cobb steadies that car. Eases it, just touching that throttle now. With that turbo, you have to be so careful in the late running after this track picks up all the debris and oil that's out there. It becomes a far different contest than we saw 3 hours ago.
Really does. The track does change in nature, and that corner right there tends to be one of the worst, the one that leads onto the straight. Because these cars are trying to put down all the horsepower, they actually lay down the rubber off their tires. And unlike a drag race where that'll make it stickier, at this track it makes it slippery.
As we watch the Jaguar try to reel in the lead car, we clock Price Cobb at a 2-minute, 13-second lap. Translate that, cooking in the streets of Miami. That is a very, very fast lap. Price Cobb has something to prove here. A year ago in this race, they made a bad tire selection on the Dyson team early in the race. They crunched up the car a bit, got as much as 3 laps down. He came back and drove through the streets of this city like a man possessed and actually finished the race in 4th place. That was an impressive run. Now he wants to come back and put the icing on the cake and win the race. To do it, he's got to hold off this number 60 Jaguar, driven by the man that we saw pull into victory lane in the 24 Hours of Daytona, John Nielsen. And he is ever so slightly chiseling away at that lead, but has not made a major inroad at this point, and he really needs to start reeling in the leader, Price Cobb, if the Jaguar is going to pull off their 2nd consecutive victory. Don't count Cobb out of that championship picture either, because he's a very strong driver and a very good car, and he could be right in there to mix it up before this season is out. We'll be back to see who will win the Miami Grand Prix. Stay with us on ESPN.
What John Nielsen is desperately seeking is just a little bit of luck to close up on Price Cobb. And what car number 14 is doing is simply praying that everything stays together for this man, Derek Bell, who is running in 4th place. The number 86 is running behind him, Klaus Ludwig, in the 5th spot. There you see the 83 car being shown a lap down. Last year's winner, Jeff Brabham. See, the 14 looks like it's a little on its uppers here in the waning moments of this race. 2 hours, 44 minutes complete.
It's definitely looking tired at this point, but Derek's driving the wheels off it. He knows that Klaus Ludwig is right behind him, and he certainly doesn't want to lose this position, but I think he's aware he really can't make up any time, and badly blocked right there. He'll be using some new English words on them.
5 7/10 of a second between 1st and 2nd place as we get down to the end of 3 hours. And let's take a look at those 2 leaders. There you see the man in front, Price Cobb, seeking his 8th IMSA GTP win out of Evergreen, Colorado. Up against Denmark's John Nielsen. There's the 2nd place car just into your picture. The man who made his mark in Super V competition had a terrible crash on the streets of Monaco several years ago and missed several months of racing. But he's mended and he's moved into this form of the sport, and he certainly is excelling.
And that's an incentive for John, too. He is within sight of the Price Cobb vehicle, and every time he comes around, he knows if he's picked up a little bit or if he's lost a bit. It lets you try that much harder, and it gives you a very good gauge on how fast you're going.
There you see him, John Nielsen. Has 2 children, lives now in Germany, born in Denmark. His co-driver, Martin Brendel, and he is definitely closing in now on Price Cobb and James Weaver in the Rob Dyson car.
Look at that, using up all the track under braking, just right to the outside edge. Watch this now. Look at, here's Price. Tight to the apex. He's right over on the edge, too. Both these drivers are really having a good battle at the end of the day.
Again, checking that interval, and it's definitely closing up. And there you see that leader in Camel Light, Hesserton Loring's car number 9. They'll have a celebration of their own tonight if they can just hang on here for just a few more minutes. 2:46. And again, watch this interval as continuing to close is the XJR Jaguar up on that 962.
Definitely. When Nielsen came onto the straight, he saw that the last lap, he was about the straight length behind him. This time he's picked up a couple of 100 feet on him, and you can see that he's visibly catching quickly.
We're told there are 14 minutes left to play it out. And definitely, it's John Nielsen with the quicker car at this juncture.
Well, again, the thing that'll help him tremendously is the instant response of the V12. The turbo car is very difficult to drive, and even more so on the slippery track. Look at this Jag. He's closing very quickly right now.
Price Cobb, who won 3 races last year and 3 races the year before, beginning to feel tremendous pressure now.
And I think
lap between cars number 16 and 60.
Incredible. Look at the Jag under braking. You can see it just snaking back and forth across the road. Very, very quick. Pushing this car very hard.
It's going to be a great win for one and a hard loss for the other. We'll be back with the finish of the Miami Grand Prix in this battle between Jaguar and Porsche after these words. Miami is beginning to sizzle. The Rob Dyson car, that number 16 in front, and for a moment, just 1 lap ago, the Jag pulled right up on the rear bumper and is about to do so again. They're in heavy traffic here as time runs out. 2:49 complete. The number 60 There you see John Nielsen, the first Danish driver to ever score World Championship points. Won in Germany for Jag. Closing up again on Price Cobb, who would like to get his first win of 88 here right now in this event. The second Jag is spun, number 61, Davy Jones. Looping, is there a tire down left front there?
No, I think it's still all, he's just stalled. That's going to move. Oh, gee, what a time to happen.
We also saw Jim Rothbert's car spin. Look at this lead battle continuing to go strong. There's
the leader just sneaking by. Look at the Jag trying to get him on acceleration. Wild trails of rubber off that back end.
Cobb stays first. Let's take a look, if we can, at what happened there a moment ago.
Just exiting, oh, and just simply getting in a little too hard. Not paying attention to a very slippery track.
That was the 6th place car, number 61. Lammers and Davy Jones being pushed away. Back to the leaders once again, and a bit of a break in traffic for Price Cobb. Colorado driver stays in front. A comment from our colleague as we get down to decision time. Here's Dave Despain.
As we watch the Jaguar, things are fairly quiet here in the Jaguar pit area, and the computer scoring system that we visited earlier on is really of not a great deal of significance at this point, because this race is down to 2 cars, a Porsche and a Jaguar, and it's going to be settled hand-to-hand, wheel-to-wheel on the racetrack. The computer won't help you very much in a situation like this. This is a crucial race for Jaguar. At the top of the show, we talked about their desire to win this championship. Winning the 24 hours was a great coup because it demonstrated that this team is for real. But as we watch this German Porsche lead the parade around this racetrack for the moment, we must recognize that it's in races like this, the 3-hour grinds, that the championship will ultimately be decided. These are the races Jaguar must be able to win. This is a race that has already seen 2 of their 3 cars badly hampered, and now the hopes again rest in the hands of John Nielsen. He's just got to get out there and out-muscle Price Cobb. Let's go to Bob Barsha down pit road.
Out-muscle is a good way to put it, Dave. Behind me here in the Dyson pit, it is equally quiet, and all eyes are on the big television screen as they watch the battle go down here in our ESPN coverage. I think it's kind of neat that John Nielsen, who won the Daytona 24 hours, or was in the car at the checkered flag, is in there against Price Cobb. What a pair of standard bearers. The Daytona 24 hours winner, and Cobb, the 2-time winner of the North American Porsche Cup. It's a prize fund put together by Porsche each year to honor the most successful Porsche driver in North America. If you watched our coverage of the San Antonio Grand Prix last year, you saw what Price Cobb can do on a street course. This one is far from over.
7 minutes to over. And there you see the interval between Price Cobb of the United States, John Nielsen of Denmark, as they decided between the Porsche number 16 and the Jag number 60. Back in 3rd spot is Segala. In 4th now is Derek Bell with the Al Holbert team. In 5th is Klaus Ludwig with the Bruce Levin car. In 6th is that other Jag that spun. I think he's down a lap now. Davy Jones. Showing 7th is Rob Dyson, the owner of the lead car, who's co-driving with A.J. Foyt today. And in 8th, Jeff Brabham is there in the Nissan, the team that won this event 1 year ago.
Well, an unbelievable battle shaping up here. Right here, we've got 2 cars. Both are in excellent shape. There's no signs of problems in either vehicle. And right now, it's driver. It's who is in the best physical condition. They've been in the car a long time, and who wants to win the worst? The level of intensity has to be just tremendous at this point.
Around these 12 turns, last average speed 90.87 miles per hour. Flawless performance by these 2 champions.
Incredible battle. Both of them are driving very well. The Jag is slipping just a little bit more, although Price got a little wide on that one corner, but usually the Jag has shown a tendency to get the back end loose coming out of a corner.
All right, take your best grip. Here it comes. Down for the finish.
There we go, just that little feint to the inside. Try and disrupt Price's concentration that tiny little bit. The Jag knew he could not pass at that point, but fill up those mirrors, get the driver to think about something else.
Less than 6 minutes remain to decide it all here in Miami this afternoon. After 3 grinding, hard hours. Controversy that will continue through the week. Be with us on Motor Week Illustrated. We'll update you 12:30 Thursday a.m. on that story, but right here, right now, look at this. You don't see it better. Price Cobb in first place, John Nielsen in second, and Nielsen now in a position where he controls a bit of the race from that second position. He's got the shot.
He really does, because what he did at that corner there, Price had to enter a little bit earlier than he really wants. That means turning into the apex of a corner early to block the Jaguar. As a result, his exit speed has to come down, and with the Jag's immediate power, that can be a critical situation.
The 12-cylinder Jaguar, very much back in vogue. We may see a lot more 12-cylinders in racing in time to come. Seemed like it was just the other day they said, oh, that's for the old Duesenbergs and the Packards. Not anymore. Coming engine of those 12 cylinders. Here's that Porsche trying to fend them off again. The turbo power against the normally aspirated machine.
Well, I think the place we have to watch for in a pass here, we can watch the Jag under heavy braking. He is definitely darting back and forth. He's using everything the Jag will give him, whereas the Porsche is extremely stable. What Price has to watch for is a traffic situation, and if he is off the power, losing that critical turbo boost, the Jag will fly by him.
5 minutes remaining or less. We have approximately 5 minutes to go. That's unofficial. There you see those 2 leaders. There you see Biscayne Bay and some of the crowd that's congregated here in Miami to enjoy this great happening.
There now, Price was aware the Jag was a couple of car lengths behind, could not possibly challenge under braking, and took a nice wide entry to that corner. He's been able to hold the distance through this series because of that entry.
They're saying 4 laps to go. Next time by, they run true to form and true to time. That doesn't hold for much here today with 4 complete full course cautions in the going. What a tribute to these 2 drivers and these 2 teams, and to Ralph Sanchez. Came to Miami as an orphan, and 6 years ago decided he was going to have a race in Miami, and everybody said, nah, it'll never happen. No, it'll never succeed. And this year, the fruits of his labor. Magnificent crowd, a great day, and this superb finishing to the wonderful afternoon we've enjoyed.
Now, we just saw a perfect example right there at the end of the straight, the fastest point, the place of the hardest braking. The Jag could close up substantially. Watch this. Here's this long 180-degree corner. The Jag close up under braking, and at the exit, Price has got his foot down a little bit earlier and draws out. Even though the Jag has the instant response, if you get on the gas early enough and anticipate precisely where you want it, you can pull it. Here we are, one of the slow corners acceleration. He's still able to keep that little bit of a lead, and that's all he needs at this point.
We will not go away for a commercial. We will stay right here for the end of this event. Just an absolutely dramatic road race. You seldom. Of course, IMSA had a few of these last year here on ESPN that came down like this.
This is incredible.
And what has happened is IMSA is now setting the trend for the rest of the world. Come the end of the season, they're going to Tampa, bring the 10 best cars from Europe against the 10 best IMSA cars. And IMSA really has taken a position worldwide with the competition that it's created and the rules it's set up. Here you have turbo and normally aspirated going in against each other. This is not an economy run like so many of those European races. This is going for it.
This is the best racing in the world. We have tremendous talent. Both Price Cobb and John Nielsen, brilliant drivers, and they're using the cars. They are really going all out for it. Just sensational racing.
Segala and Larari's car lie third. The Al Hobart car is back and forth with Derek Bell driving.
Very slow GTP lights. Okay, go on the inside. He's safely by, and the Jag is blocked. Look at that. Look at the lead he's picked up just with the 2 cars, and he's going to lose more right here. The crew are absolutely furious. They can't believe that he got blocked by those cars. There's more English words.
Very stoic. Jan Lammers looking on there. Time running out. Down to a couple of minutes to decide the 6th annual Miami Grand Prix. A couple of laps to go will decide it all here today.
I don't think at this point that he can catch it. You can see him again getting loose on the exit of the corner. He's getting impatient, trying to get that foot on the gas just a fraction of a second earlier. He wants to go faster right now than he has ever gone this weekend.
Last lap, 91.33 miles per hour. There you see them down the MacArthur Causeway. Coming for Biscayne Boulevard, wide open through there.
Nielsen will be using everything in his power at this point to get that time back up, whereas Price knows he has a little bit of a gap now, just that breathing space, and may back off.
The season was going to be so sketchy for Rob Dyson. They had no sponsor. They got a last-minute sponsor to start the season, and my, haven't they rewarded them well?
Tremendous.
Here you see it, the Blaupunk Porsche leading, and that Castrol Jag in second place.
I think that's a significant statistic that just passed us by. 91.3 for a lap on the leader. Qualified at 92 flat. He's running within 7/10 of a mile an hour of his qualifying speed after beating that car to pieces for 3 hours. I'd say that's a pretty impressive performance.
And the next time by, we'll see how that performance works out. The checkered flag, Dave Despain. Next time by, they're saying. Final lap underway. Price Cobb grits his teeth. Final times of these very difficult corners. I'm surprised that asphalt didn't grab more. Hans Stuck was telling me he thought several guys would get in real trouble with those changes of surface. He said you just go in and all of a sudden you're out of control, just heading across the racetrack. That's not been the case. There have been some other serious problems. 2 serious crashes here today.
Look at this, twitching back and forth. He is just right on the edge of adhesion. Through the corner, up against the tires.
And look at Nielsen close. Time running out, down to the finish of this 3-hour endurance contest. Looks like a 25-lap sprint to the finish. Here they are, rounding it up for the final goal. He's moved in. He's trying to make a go at the checkered flag. They come to the line, and car number 16 has pulled it off by about 8 feet, if that. Crew reaction.
Incredible.
Magnificent moment for the co-driver of A.J. Foyt's car is pretty happy with how his team car did today. We'll be back to meet Price Cobb and James Weaver live on ESPN in a moment. Well, here you see Price Cobb coming in, and Bill Adams making the point he may be running out of fuel. You see him switching. Well, now he's pulling in here for victory lane, but he was sashaying that car back and forth as if he had a fuel pickup problem.
I think it could be that he had the turbo turned up so high they were going all out for it, and it's paid off. Just a brilliant victory.
And a great victory for Hessert and Loring here today in Camel Light as well. But here's the main story of this entire weekend. The Miami Grand Prix has been won by the man who's won the Porsche Cup of North America for the last 2 years, and every indication as to why was shown in that last lap. In victory lane, here's Dave Despain.
Bryce Cobb can't get out of there fast enough. Boy, he is a hot cat, but he's also a happy cat indeed, and he kept the cat behind him here this afternoon. Cobb holding on to win it by about 8 feet at the finish line. Price, you ever had a better sports car race in your life?
No, and I can't thank Goodyear and the crew enough, and the people at Andile. We've had difficulties all weekend, and it sure seemed to come together for the race. And those Jags look like they're really going to be a force to be reckoned with, and my hat's off to them.
When it all came down, though, it was you and Nielsen hand-to-hand out there, and he gave you a couple of minutes. He was all over you.
Well, I know towards the end I had to start protecting my lead. I mean, you know, I had to slow down and hog the track to make sure that wasn't going to be a problem. But it seemed like traffic was in my favor. And, you know, my heart's out to him, but I'm glad I won.
There was a lot of speculation that with that V12 normally aspirated pickup off the corner that he was going to have an advantage. He gobbled up your 6-second lead, but once he got to you, he couldn't get around you. What was the difference in the last couple of laps?
Well, once again, I think the instant on power of the V12 gives him a shot around the traffic that we don't have. And I was pushing, as you know, more or less as hard as I could at the start, and I might have hurt the front tires. But once again, towards the end, when it was only a few laps to go, when that 6-second spread was there, I just backed her down and hogged the road.
Backed it down and won the race. Congratulations, Price Cobb, winner of the Miami Grand Prix, live on ESPN. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Dyson's team just made their first error of the day. Rob Dyson couldn't find victory lane, started to run back to the garage area with his wife in hand, and now finds himself there enjoying the celebration.
The 1988 Miami Grand Prix has been presented by BF Goodrich TAs. We make your car perform. By the more than 2,200 CarQuest auto parts stores across the country. And by Dodge Cars and Trucks. When it's gotta be right, it's gotta be a Dodge.
Let's go to Bob Barcia.
I'm standing with John Nielsen after one of the greatest runs to the checkered flag we've seen in a long time in Camel GT. John, what was it like inside that car?
Well, it was pretty exciting also. You know, we caught the slower cars, and that really made it a little bit impossible for me. I couldn't pass him, but it was close. But at the end, I didn't want to take too big chances, because at the end of the year, we're talking about the man who has most points, so we'll try and win the next one.
With a victory the 24 hours, second place in a 3-hour race, not a bad job. John Nielsen, your runner-up today. We'll be back for more live coverage from the Miami Grand Prix after this.
of Hessert and Loring and Camelite continued right to the end of the day, and Fanato came through to win. Hessert and Loring had to settle for second place. A final comment from you about this great race, Bill Adam.
It is undoubtedly the finest IMSA race I've ever witnessed, and I'm just so impressed with the job that Price Cobb and his team did today to beat the all-favored Jaguars. Sensational job.
A thought from Dave Despain.
Victory lane parties are always fun. This was my kind of race. Take a couple of $400,000 cars, beat them, bash them, tear them to pieces for 3 hours, and then take whatever's left, put it in the hands of a couple of guys like John Nielsen and Price Cobb, let them slug it out. Price Cobb earned this victory. Good race.
How about it, Bob Varsha?
Well, Dave and Ken and all the folks out there, endurance races are supposed to be won by miles or by laps. The history of the Miami Grand Prix, though, says that that doesn't happen. There have been close races all through the years, and this is going to be one of the classic. My hat is off to Price Cobb. I just hope that scoring dispute doesn't cloud a great victory today and a great race.
Well, indeed, Bob, and whether or not there is a slight scoring debacle, I don't think that's the issue here. I think the point is that the International Motorsports Association has truly come to its own in the world of motorsports competition. This is some of the very best racing you'll see anywhere, and you'll see a lot more of it this year, right here live on ESPN. So join us again. For Dave Despain, Bob Varsha, Bill Adam, I'm Ken Squire. Our congratulations to Price Cobb for winning this afternoon's Miami Grand Prix.